Hey, everybody, this is Cameron from Obnoxious Anonymous, and welcome to the Twin Peaks Thought of the Day for Friday, August 26th, 2022. My guest today is someone who has never been on this show before, which is really quite a shame because in talking to him for the last couple of weeks, I'm just like, you got to come on the show. This is going to be fantastic, a lot of fun. And why weren't you on the show back in 2017 when season 3 was on? So
I don't know. It would have been perfect.
It would have been perfect. But anyway, this is a guy that I've known, not in real life, but I've known of for 22 years, thanks to this DVD, which is one I never planned on buying because at this time when it came out, was it like 2000 or so? I was just like, it doesn't have the deleted scenes. I'm not going to buy it. And then I was at Costco and it was $14.99. And I was like, okay, I'll get it. And on the back, I was really excited just because it has like, pictures that I had never seen at that time of stills and stuff from, I guess, character stills. And again, just had the trailer. But then it said original documentary. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. It says, reflections on the phenomenon of Twin Peaks with Ray Wise, Grace Zabriskie, Cheryl Lee, Kyle, Michael Horst, Miguel Ferrer. I mean, all-star cast here. Kimmy Robertson, Al Strobel, Michael Anderson, Catherine Colson, Peggy Lipton, Everett McGill, Machen Amick, Dana Ashbrook, Joanna Ray, Ron Garcia, and you.
Yes.
And I'm like, Josh Eisenstadt. I have no idea who the hell that is, but okay. So I'm watching this thing, and again, I've made comments about this documentary in the past. I don't even know if I would call it a documentary. It just, there's so many cool people, so many cool stories about to be said, and it's edited in such a frantic. I don't even understand what happened. Maybe one day the filmmakers, I'll know, reach out to me. I'd like to pick your brain as to what happened. Maybe we can get the raw footage released because I'm sure people would love to see it. Anyway,
that would be good.
Halfway through the doc, it cuts to Michael J. Anderson, and then the camera pans over to you, and you talk about how Fire Walk with Me, how you love it because there's so many layers of mystery, which is always just amused me because one, they didn't use any graphics to let people know who anybody was, and obviously they assumed that you would know who the actors from the show were, but I didn't know who you were, so I was like, well, who's this guy? And you never come back. So so it's just like this random thing. And then years later, I would say it's about 15 years later, someone would say to me, oh, that's Josh Eisenstadt. I said, who the hell is Josh Eisenstadt? They said, well, he's run the festivals back in the day. And so let's just start there. You are Josh Eisenstadt. You are the mysterious, truly the mystery man of this Twin Peaks documentary.
We've met before, haven't we?
We have met before. Okay, so...
Well, I could tell you...
Well, let's just start from the beginning. Okay. You've been an OG Twin Peaks fan literally from the beginning.
Yes.
You were sneaking into the living room, much too young, and saying, what is this? I need to know about this right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I was a kid. I was very little, probably too young to be watching it. But, I always loved films and loved TV and liked to watch a lot of different things. And, once I got to that age, I had walked in and my parents were watching. It was an episode, the official title episode 002, or the third episode if you count the pilot.
So let's just pause right there. We don't, Josh and I, we're on the same wavelength here. We don't call Twin Peaks episodes by those German titles.
No, okay? I'm not even going to say the name of the episode because it's not the real title.
There you go. It is literally episode 2. It's episode 3. Okay, it's part
Either
17.
One's acceptable. Yeah.
Well, no. I guess for season 3 they did give those proper titles.
So those are official.
So we'll allow that. But seasons 1 and 2, there's no titles, folks. Okay, go ahead.
No titles, just episode numbers. And like season 2, you could call it the second episode of season 2. You could call it episode 9. You could call it episode 10 if you count the pilot as 1, or you could call it episode 2.002.
Right. We will respect you immensely if you call if you reference an episode as episode 15.
Absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
I always tell people 15 counting the pilot is 0 or 15 counting the pilot is 1.
All right. Oh, should I preface to say that this may just be the geekiest episode that we ever do on the show? Okay.
It's going to be up there.
It's going to be up there. Okay. So you become enthralled with this show.
Yes. I walked in and, my parents were kind of watching it, but they were kind of half watching it. I mean, they had liked Blue Velvet. I guess I had not seen Blue Velvet or any David Lynch film at this point. I was very young, and I walked in, and something about it just enthralled me. I remember the scene with Leo and meeting Bobby and Mike in the woods with the Who's That, or someone with you, and go out for a pass, and just watching every scene and just becoming so fascinated and enthralled in this. It was like almost like it was made for me in a way, where it just drew me in. And that's at the point when I said, I turned around. I still remember I said this to my parents. I turned around and said, "This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I want to know everything about this." And this was the days of VHS. I found somebody that had VHS of the first 2 episodes. I got those. I caught up. And, here I am many years later and still like the show.
Okay, so
understatement.
And so obviously you were one of those hardcore guys. Watched seasons 1, season 2. You probably watched the re-airing during the summer, and then obviously the Alan Thicke special with Cop Rock. I'm sure you caught that. So season 2 begins. Okay, you have to just level with me. The opener of season 2 that was originally supposed to be directed by Steven Spielberg, and Lynch said, I'm going to step in. Now David Lynch is in Spielberg's newest film.
I know.
Kind of interesting, kind of
full circle.
I know it's like it's revisionist now. Everyone just loves that second season premiere, but at that time, the second season premiere, the whole thing with "I Heard About You" and all that. That's people talk about. Oh, the Laura Palmer mystery is where the fans jumped ship after it was over. People don't understand. People jump ship from the season 2 opener.
Yeah, a lot of
that
people
was
did.
that was the beginning of the crash.
And over the years, I've showed Twin Peaks to a lot of people. Like when I was a teenager, I was used to be told that was like my initiation with friends. Oh, you haven't seen Twin Peaks? We got to go through the show. And usually when I show it to people, I've done it many times throughout the years. When I get to the season 2, that's when I kind of find out then if somebody's really going to be with it. Seeing how they react to that. And if they really like that, I know they're on board all the way.
I think one of the problems with the episode is because there had been time in between the finale of season 1 and season 2. And, it wasn't like it is now where people can catch up with DVR or Blu-ray or whatever. So there's a lot of recapping, right? They got to recap a lot. And now if you're binge watching it, it's like, well, wait a minute. Why are we recapping all this? This just happened the night before. Well, it's just because we've changed now as a society and how we tell stories on television. But back then there wasn't repeats. So it's like they really had to recap. Some of the recaps.
No DVR,
Right. I mean, some of the recaps really, really work. Like when they do the whole pan across the table with the donuts. And they're
what I'm thinking.
Because that I love, because that's actually like law enforcement kind of going over everything and putting the pieces together, Harry, right?
The real crime.
But then there's other things where it's just kind of like, and how many times, honestly, is Albert Rosenfeld going to take off his sunglasses in the background when when Andy gets hit by the board? I think I'm up to 5 count. But anyway, I actually I'll tell you something. I actually fell asleep watching
really?
it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was just tired. I don't know. But I woke up to the ending of Laura Palmer screaming and the train.
Yeah, that kept me awake at night. That freaked me out. That freaked me out that night. I mean, I was very young, so I mean, it really yeah.
Well, I was 14. How old were you?
I believe I was 13.
Okay.
So
It's very disturbing, and in fact, in a way, it's almost like when people complain, well, they didn't tell you who killed Laura Palmer. It's like they kind of did. I mean, in that episode, I mean, you knew it was Bob. You just know who Bob was inside, and even in the season 1 during the Cooper's Dream, which of course was made for the international pilot. I mean, he says the killer's name is Bob. I mean, he
Yeah.
announces it right there. It's like it's not a they're not trying to trick us, folks. Anyway, so yeah, I fell asleep second season premiere. I don't know. There was just so much in the hospital, and I was like, "Oh, this is like the Halloween 2 of like of Twin Peaks, where we're in Calhoun Memorial Hospital a long time."
Yes.
Obviously, I've gone back and watched it a million times, but that first night, I was kind of surprised by the. It almost seemed like after, because while the pilot and everything had a leisurely pace, it was. I mean, compared to some things in season 3, a very fast pace, right? And then, of course, Lynch coming off Wild at Heart, which is a tremendously fast pace.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Velvet, fast pace as well. The second season premiere is almost the beginning of that hotel room, Lost Highway, where it's like Lynch starts slowing down time, which I don't think a lot of people were prepared for. I don't think I was at first. I mean, then you kind of get into the spirit of it, but so I was just kind of surprised that like, wow, like we're ramping up, and then the season 2 premiere, which is supposed to be, again, kicking you into high gear. It's very character oriented, right? I mean, they spend time talking about how Nadine lost her eye and all this kind
of Major Briggs vision and all of that. It seems Major Briggs and Bobby.
Exactly.
Being a big man.
So season 2 continues. Obviously, they solve Laura's murder. So that middle stretch between the killer being the killing being solved and then the Wyndham Earl Annie arc, there's that middle section. As an original fan, what was your opinion as you were moving through those episodes? Because I mean, I was still with it. But I remember thinking, this has to go somewhere more than just Andrew Packard returning.
Yeah. I remember exactly what I was thinking pretty much through all of it. I remember, first of all, the second season premiere, I actually really loved the first time I saw it. On my second viewing, less so, but my first viewing, I loved it. And now I absolutely love it. Now it's one of my favorites. I remember my second viewing, it felt slower than it did on the first one. I think I was so excited that first night that aired. But now it's, I love that episode a lot. But going into the midsection that you were talking about, I remember after Leland died, I remember thinking in my mind, where's it going to go? And I knew the Wyndham Earl thing was kind of in the background, and I thought that might come forward. And I remember I was interested in Major Briggs' disappearance. But then when it got to counting the pilot as 0, episode 18, 19, those two I remember, and after that break, after Andrew Packard comes back, I remember around that time I'm thinking, okay, I'm still enjoying it, but it's not as good. I remember thinking that and thinking, I hope it kind of comes back around to Bob and these questions. And I remember then episode 20, which is the one where it ends with them finding Eric Powell's body, the chess piece and the blackout and Leo waking up and Jean Renault being shot. I remember that episode. I remember really liking that one a lot the first time and kind of feeling, okay, it's back on track. We got Wyndham Earl now has brought this body in through the window. It's getting back. And then the next 2, not as much. And then after that, I felt right back on track, which is the one where Josie dies. And then it looked like it was ending. And then we had
it was over. Because I remember ABC News came on after. Tonight was the last episode of Twin Peaks. Hope you enjoyed it, folks. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
but I heard there was another 6 episodes that were filmed. And I remember thinking there's another 6 episodes somewhere. We got to at least see these. I mean, we can't end like this.
It wasn't just like a couple weeks. I mean, it was like a couple months.
Yeah.
And I remember a friend calling me saying, yeah, I'm hearing that the girl from License to Drive is in the next 6 episodes. I'm like, Heather, what on earth? Like I had no idea like what was happening. And it just makes me like go, wow, can you imagine if ABC chose not to air those 6 and then like we didn't see them until maybe the Bravo airing, or what if they didn't come out until the Gold Box? What I mean, can you imagine if like the mid, whatever, 2008, whatever, where like that would be the first time we saw those back 6 episodes?
I think we wouldn't have. We might not have had the festival the same way we did and everything else, because a lot of that, I mean, I loved the finale so much when I first saw it and still do to this day. And I think most people agree on that one, the season 2 finale. And I think that really kept a lot of it going, a lot of the interest, because it just pulled it back to being as good as ever. And I think if we didn't have that at the time, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Would the festivals have continued? Would Wrapped in Plastic have happened? Would all of the fan base?
There would have been no Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah, there couldn't have been. So I mean, everything would have been different. It's hard to imagine. I'm happy that they aired them. I was definitely very happy they did that.
But was it you that told me that like they ultimately chose to air them not because they felt like some need to show us? Because let's be honest here, this is the same network that 2 years later refused to air the last 5 episodes of On the Air, right? They only aired 3.
And refused to air any of Mulholland Drive. And not even get going with that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Even later than
that always blows my mind that like Naomi Watts would have been a TV actress.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously she could have gone to movies. I'm just saying she would have started out as an actress. And
yeah,
I love Mulholland Drive. Don't get me wrong. Love it, love it, love it. But I would every once in a while like to step through an alternate universe and see what a 22 episode Mulholland Drive series would have looked like.
I know.
Right? Anyway,
I could tell you some stories about that Mulholland Drive thing if you're interested at some point too.
We will get to those stories.
I think I might have told you a little bit on the phone. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I remember then when the last 6 episodes aired, I remember thinking, obviously it's different than the Laura Palmer story, but those last 6 episodes are wonderfully made.
I love those episodes.
And it feels like the show is really back on track. And in fact, when you see that long documentary they originally made for the Gold Box, where Mark Frost says, if I could have done it in retrospect, I would have tightened it up where it's like, it would have flowed more into the. I understand where he's coming from that. I think you did need to have a little bit of a pause there to get back up.
Which I don't mind now. When I watch it now, like I just showed the whole series to somebody recently. I was doing movie nights over here twice a week. They're just finished. And, when you watch it straight through, especially when the pause is coming, it's not bad, actually. I don't mind it now because it is like, you've got all this excitement building up to the Leland's death and the reveal. And then you've got a little bit of a pause and then it picks up again. I don't mind it as a pacing thing now if you look at it as a whole.
And when you watch it again, if you binge watch it, it's okay because it's about 3 hours. Whereas like when it was on the air, it was like literally like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So
and you didn't know then either. And now you can tell people, okay, it's going to pick right back up and be amazing. But then first time we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, is this going to be the rest of the show? Nadine in high school?
Yeah. Nadine on the wrestling. Yeah. Her wrestling tour.
Exactly. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, all right. Like I bought into the world, but I remember after that finale, that Tim Hunter finale where, Leland's dead, I remember going to school and a friend of mine who casually watched it, right? I guess he caught that episode. He came up to me and goes, "Is the show over?" And I was like thinking, no, but it's almost like I can see how people would think that was a conclusion to the show.
It feels like a conclusion in a way. Yeah,
it kind of does. And they totally tipped their hand in that episode. I don't know if Tim Hunter knew it or not, but when who was it? Was it Truman that says we had him trapped, but
Truman says that he says if he was real, he was here and we had him trapped and he got away. Where is Bob now?
And then it immediately cuts to Cooper drinking the coffee, right? And I remember thinking at the time that when Cooper was holding Leland and giving him the last rites, I thought that Bob transferred into Cooper.
That's interesting.
And so when they said, "Where's Bob now?" and then it cut to Cooper, I was like, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, like Bob's in him.
Cooper, yeah.
So like when they did the big finale at the end of season 2, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool, that works. But you already told us to us like 14 episodes earlier.
No, I didn't pick that up from that shot, but I remember like during the last 6 guessing that Bob might end up in Cooper. I remember guessing that.
Right.
And I don't remember why I guessed it, but I remember thinking, is that possible this could happen? But I was still shocked when it did, because I remember it was one of those things where I thought, no, that can't happen. But could it?
But and then it wasn't
really, he didn't really possess Cooper, though. It was his doppelganger. So.
Exactly, right? So that's the twist on it. And again, like stupid me, like I didn't even think about that at all until I saw Fire Walk with Me and Annie said that, because I just assumed that the doppelganger had like jumped inside Cooper, like grabbed him and
Right.
went inside. So I didn't go. So when she said, "Oh, he's still in there," I was like, "Oh my god, Cooper's still good. He's still alive.
Right. There's still a
Uh,
chance.
there's still a chance he can come
We
out." And
didn't predict Dougie Jones, but I
no,
don't think anybody predicted that one.
no, no, and we can talk about that later. Even though I enjoy the character,
As do I.
I do question a couple of thematic questions it brings up, but that's another story. So show's over,
Hmm.
and I don't know. I mean, you hadn't gone to the festivals yet, right? 92?
No. Yeah, because the first fan run festival was 1993 by Don and Pat Shook, who kind of started the whole thing.
It wasn't
And
92 for the Fire Walk with Me premiere?
92 wasn't really a festival, it was the premiere, and it was kind of put on by the studio as
Okay.
kind of an event for the premiere, but it wasn't really a fan festival.
Okay.
It was more just like a studio event for the premiere.
All right.
And then 93, and that kind of inspired Don and Pat Shook, who started the Twin Peaks Festival in 93. Now, I missed the festival in 93. That's the one I didn't go to. And I remember hearing about it, seeing it wrapped in plastic, and being on another trip at that time and thinking, okay, next year I got to go. And then 94, I went for the first time. The only one I missed was 93. And I missed the chance to meet Frank Silva.
Wow.
By missing that festival, I never met Frank Silva. But I did get to meet Jack Nance in 95, which was
Oh wow.
that
What
was
was that? What was that encounter like?
Oh, amazing, amazing. Just a super, super nice guy. And that was, 95 festival. We still had the opening night was at the Issaquah Holiday Inn back then. And I remember Jack Nance coming out and just being so, so nice to me. I mean, just so friendly. And I remember at one point he said to me, and I think it was later on in the night, he said, "I'm going to go to my hotel room and bring you something." He said, "There's something that I was looking for somebody to give this to." And he came back with, I think it was issue 5 of Wrapped in Plastic. And he said, "I wanted to pick somebody here to give this to. I'm going to give it to you." And then he signed it. I still have it. He signed it to me. It said, to Josh, it said, "I'm Paul. What's your name?" "I'm Pete." To Josh, your friend always, Jack Nance.
Wow.
And I still have that. It's definitely a prized possession. And it was amazing to meet him.
I can imagine. Yeah, no, I never unfortunately met him.
And that was the only festival he went to. That was it.
Yeah. Well, if you guys have not seen, I don't know, Jack, the
Yeah.
documentary about him, about Jack Nance, it's truly one of the most moving things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I went in not expecting that, right? I mean, I kind of I knew that he had passed away. I remember hearing about that incident, but I didn't really know any details about his life. And for the first half hour or so, you're kind of going through it. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And that last hour of that documentary is some of the most incredibly like moving and painful stories you've ever heard about someone's life.
Yeah. The story about
So-
his wife on the phone and all of that.
Yeah, all that stuff. And then during the making of Meatballs 4 of all
I know. Could you believe
Right.
that? That story was like, oh,
It's just if you can find the doc, I don't know if it's on YouTube or Vimeo or whatever, but hopefully they'll re-release it somewhere officially.
they probably will, because they're coming out with the Catherine Coulson documentary, so it might be released somewhere with that. Maybe they might do a package release. I don't have no knowledge of that. I'm just making a guess. I don't know.
I think they're gonna do a digital stream of it. I don't know, but I don't know when the Log Lady doc is coming out. I know they're working on it. I mean, I've talked to the people making it, and they are working on it. So
yeah, I don't know either.
COVID set made a lot of things.
Yeah, COVID set a lot of things back. Potentially,
Right. Well,
this mysterious Wisteria unrecorded night, maybe one of them. I have no knowledge about that either, but
and where is
maybe.
where's the Dwayne Dunham, Amy Shields Netflix movie?
Right, maybe that too.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we haven't. Yeah, I'm sure it's still happening, but COVID did shut down a lot of things.
So I was just reading an article tonight about something that I remember hearing at when Fire Walk with Me came out, that David Lynch that seriously considered like not making films after Fire Walk with Me. Like
Yeah.
that's, I mean, he talks about, you know, there's a 5-year break in between. I mean, obviously he did. I always joke that like Twin Peaks got cut in half, and half became Fire Walk with Me, and the other half became On the Air. And then, of course, he did Hotel Room and things like that. But like in terms of theatrical features, it was 5 years in between. Which, I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, if you look at Blue Velvet to Wild at Heart, it's 4 years, so it's really not that much. But between 92 and 97, it felt like 3 decades had gone by the time he made a film.
Yeah, it did.
It was a big leap because obviously one is before Quentin Tarantino exploded, right? And then obviously, not saying they're the same kind of filmmakers, but I'm just saying like the world changed when Pulp Fiction
Oh yeah.
and Ed Wood and Natural Born Killers and all that stuff. All, you know, it just completely
Hmm.
transformed. Forrest Gump, even, you know, which I think Forrest Gump plays a role in Dougie in season 3.
Yes.
But anyway,
Interesting.
but I remember like just hearing, because when I was down in LA, hearing, oh yeah, you know, David Lynch isn't thinking about making any more films, and I kept thinking, oh my God, is the bright white light in the lodge with Laura's face in it, is that like the full circle to the Henry Nance at the end of Eraserhead? And I was thinking, well, maybe that's just kind of how he's gonna wrap things up. But obviously that's not what happened. But it felt like in that time that Lynch had almost kind of hung it up.
Yeah. I was worried about it. I remember I was definitely concerned. I did not want that to happen.
Right.
And I was quite happy when I heard about Lost Highway. I remember that. Being quite excited about that.
Right. Trapped in Plastic says people who contributed to the Catherine documentary got I Don't Know Jack as a perk. That's great. I just would love to see it again on some sort of like DVD or Blu-ray as well.
I have an old DVD of it from
I
back
do
when it
too.
came out. Yeah,
I know.
but
Well, I got it off the Lynch website in 2000.
right.
Um,
Oh, you were on davidlynch.com also.
I never posted on the message board, but I did kind of go on there and just kind of browse and like buy a few things, and that's where I got his short films and the Racerhead 2000 box.
Yeah,
And
the
stuff
big
like that.
box. Those big
But
boxes.
I remember when I called to, I was kind of not, I didn't have a lot of money at that time, so like I called to cancel my membership, and I don't know who I spoke to. It must be somebody that, like, if I knew now, I'd be like, oh, of course it had to be that person. But it was a lady, and I said, I'm sorry, I just have to cancel. And she said, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. She goes, what are we doing wrong that you want to cancel? Like, she was generally like wanting to know my story as to why I was like, you really care? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's like I'm used to people just going, sure, you know, what's your number?
Yeah, usually, exactly. Usually people just are, okay.
Right. So anyway, but then there was all these rumors about like after Firewalk Me came out, and you know, we say it came and went. I guess in some places it did come and went. In my area, it played for 2 months, even though nobody went to see it. But do you remember how long it played near you?
About a month, about 2 months, close to 2 months. I think maybe a little bit under, because I went to see it multiple times.
Okay, so for you, about 2 months as well.
About 2 months, yeah.
Now, what I don't get is, even though there was no, I mean, I know there was like some sort of weird message board internet thing, but I was not aware of the internet at that point, right?
Yeah, me either.
So how on earth did we all hear that Lynch was apparently going to put together a huge, you know, 3.5 hour, 4 hour cut for the VHS release in February?
You know, I remember, I think I first heard about it in Wrapped in Plastic.
Okay.
Because I think Wrapped in Plastic had talked about that. And I remember somehow, I don't remember how. Actually, I do remember how. I think it was Bruce Phillips. Like in 93 or 94, I got on hold of the script. I think it was through Bruce Phillips's catalog. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Bruce Phillips?
That's how I got it too.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, exactly. I remember reading that and thinking, wow, you know, thinking about all these scenes that were in there and that weren't in the film. And
right.
Just hoping one day we'd be able to see that. And then I heard the rumors, you know, about the Japanese Laserdisc that supposedly had them on there. And, you know, it was like we were saying earlier, it was harder to verify rumors back then without the internet, where you could just type it in and see.
I thought for sure it had to be true because I was like, well, the Japanese love Twin Peaks, so why wouldn't they just release it, over there? Because I just thought that Lynch was, cut Firewalk with Me here for a U.S. theatrical time, but like overseas, he could, basically what what Terry Gilliam did with Brazil, he could put out the longer version in Europe and the shorter version here in the States.
Yeah, and I remember hearing rumors to that effect too, and just at that point, not really knowing but hoping.
Right. Well, obviously that didn't happen, and it didn't happen with this DVD release either. It didn't happen until the
Blu-ray. And I can talk a little bit more about that too, because that's kind of an interesting thing. When that came out, I had no idea my name was going to be on the back of the box. I had no idea it was even going to be in it. I didn't know that day that I was going to be in it. What had happened was I helped them get a couple of cast members. They had contacted me. I don't remember how that happened, but they contacted me, and there were a couple of I helped them get some cast members in there, and they wanted a location to film some of them. And I suggested my parents' house because I thought it'd be a good background. And they came over to do that, and I went over there for the filming of it. And one of it was the Richard Beamer interview, which I'm on with Richard Beamer on the season 1 DVD set. They used a quick clip of me there where they actually put my name and who I am, which is better because then I'm not just some random person. But on the Fire Walk With Me one, they just kind of, I was there and they said, would you mind answering a question on camera? I said, okay. And I did that. I didn't think they were ever going to use it. And I remember when it came out, they showed it to me earlier. I remember they actually called me and said, do you want to watch it? And I went over to the place and I watched that, that documentary. Wasn't quite sure what to say, but I was surprised that my name was in the credits and everything because I just did a quick little thing. I mean, what you saw is pretty much what they filmed with me. And then I remember when it came out, I remember going to the store, the Tower Records, back when those existed, picking it up and looking on the back and seeing my name and just being shocked because they put my name on the back of the Fire Walk With Me box. This is incredible. Nobody's going to know who I am, but it's still incredible.
Yeah. But it's just so funny because like, even back then, it's almost like they counted on everybody knowing who was in the Twin Peaks fandom. And there was no internet. So how the heck was I supposed to know?
The Twin Peaks fandom was, I mean, because there wasn't the internet, the only kind of group fandom at that point really was the festival. And at that point, I mean, I think there'd be 60, 70 attendees maximum in the 90s at the festival. So it was a real kind of small group. And a lot of those people would come back, but it wasn't, as big as it became later. So the fandom wasn't really huge back then. There was no way to organize it outside of an event because there wasn't the internet. There wasn't social media. So it just was a kind of a different thing. So
like when David Lynch in 2000, when he was promoting Mulholland Drive, said that Twin Peaks was as dead as a doornail. Like, I know exactly what he means by that because to say you were a Twin Peaks fan, I even in 2003, 2004, people would be like, what?
Yeah.
What was that? I remember Entertainment Weekly wrote something, I think around 95, saying, yeah, you would never guess Twin Peaks was ever on the air if you looked at what was on TV. And
that was very sad to see.
Right. And so it just because I never went to the fan festivals. I didn't even know about them. And I'd always I just wanted to take a pilgrimage up to that area. Even though, it's like, obviously a lot of it was filmed in California, but I wanted to see the iconic locations. I never got up there though, until, God, what was it? I think it was 2004. Right. So I get up there and I should have gone earlier, but I went up there and I remember walking around. I saw a couple locations here and there. I didn't get to see a lot because my girlfriend at the time was like, what are we doing here? This is a waste of our time. Let's go to Seattle. And stupidly, I was like, okay, let's go. But I remember going to the
department store. You could have gone to Horton's department store in Seattle.
Very true. Well, anyway, I went to
knock that in.
We just ended up making a lot of bad left turns in Seattle and just going around in circles. It was like I felt like the Griswolds in European Vacation.
Right.
Anyway, but I remember going to a couple of the gift shops around there, and I'm going, "Hey, do you have anything like Twin Peaks thing?" And the lady goes, that was like a show that was like 14, 15 years ago. Like, we've moved on. Why haven't you?
Wow.
Right. And
That used to drive
now,
me nuts when people would say that, by the way.
right. Well, now though, even though like it's been, I don't know, what's it been, like five years, whatever, since season 3's shown.
Right.
They're still like, today's Twin Peaks Day up there, and we and come and buy these come into the glasses shop, and we'll make sure you look like Agent Cooper. And so,
Right.
like,
And the Sailor's gift shop,
that did not happen.
Not at all. Not at all.
In 04. It was when David Lynch says it was dead as a doornail. I mean, it was so dead that like if you even, because like the last thing that happened was Fire Walk with Me. Why would the town want to be remembered for a movie that completely bombed? Right. And
Not only,
so good.
And along those lines, the festival followed the same way, because I remember like the 2006, 2007, 2008 festival. Once we got there, the amount of attendees shrunk to, I think at its lowest, I think there might have been only 55 people at the festival, maybe less. And I remember that was Amanda and Jared running at the point. I think I was talking to them at one point. I think they said something like, well, it might be time to hang this up, it's dying. We can't get, people to come. And I remember kind of saying, no, never. We cannot lose Twin Peaks fandom. Never, 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 never. I remember just saying that. But they're kind of saying, well, we kind of have to face reality here. We don't have enough ticket sales to fund this. It's, and it might have been the Jordan Kelly, or when Jordan and Kelly Chambers were doing an Or Man. It was somewhere around there, 2004, 2006, somewhere in that area that you're talking about. And then I remember when Netflix happened, then all of a sudden we got a resurgence when it came out of Netflix. Like a bunch of new people watched it, and we started getting people at the festival again. And this is also, I think, like around 2009, 2010, which is the year that we got Cheryl Lee and Ray Wise up there at the festival. Once that came around, then it became.
And they've been inseparable ever since.
Yeah, and then
they literally toured the country doing Fire Walk With Me screenings, even one on Christmas Eve. And I'm like, I don't know anybody. It's like, I mean, I'm like, Fire Walk With Me is not Rocky Horror. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's go to Christmas Eve and watch Fire Walk With Me.
Well, that's a Wonderful Life. Take your pick, on Christmas Eve.
There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, I will say this, no matter how great the fans are at Twin Peaks, and they are few and sparse, there's now a lot more, but like back in the day, in the mid 90s, if you ever met someone who said, oh, did you ever watch Twin Peaks? It was like, savor them, protect them in gold. Because you really.
Oh, I've got a story about that too. Well, I had one person in my 8th grade class. I had a teacher that really liked Twin Peaks, who was a great English teacher. Her name was Mrs. Kronstadt. I remember they had a highly gifted magnet program, which was high school students that were there. And one of them was the TA, who was a big Twin Peaks fan, this really nice guy named Asaf. And I remember, like, after episode 25 or 26, depending on if you count the pilot as one, aired, the Owl Cave episode, first Owl Cave episode. I remember I walked in and he had written, like, drew the Owl Cave symbols on the blackboard when I walked into class. And I was like, okay, this is the greatest class in the world, Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the people that I could talk to about it, because I didn't have a whole bunch of people back then.
No, that's the thing. That's what's so nice about the internet, is it brought a lot of fans together that normally felt alone in their areas,
especially in a lot of those years, and that's what I loved about the fan events, was getting to, and I've never gone to any other fan events other than Twin Peaks related ones, and I've loved it. I've met so many people that I'm still friends with to this day, and it's just been life changing. I found people that were my people. The way I felt, I felt my tribe, so to speak.
Well, and like I said, no matter how great the fan is, fandom is about it. If Twin Peaks had not come onto Netflix, not gotten, I know I had the Artisan release and the Paramount release, but if I had not had the Gold Box release, we wouldn't have gotten the Blu-ray release with the missing pieces, and we certainly would not have gotten season 3.
No.
So I think it being put on Netflix began the snowball effect of eventually a season 3.
It did. And the Netflix is what started bringing the fans back to the festival. I mean, I saw it with that, where we just had, they couldn't sell 60, 70 tickets. And all of a sudden we're back to selling, 150, 160 tickets. It just changed everything, it being on Netflix. And there were people that, weren't even born, that were coming to the festival, that weren't even born when it was on. There was a guy that won the trivia contest named Spencer. I don't know if you know Spencer.
Mm-mm.
He was a teenager. He wasn't, born when it was on, and he came and won the trivia contest 3 years in a row. And it was quite amazing.
Do you still know Spencer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well,
Really good guy.
we may need to remember him for future things.
He's been on my mind.
All right, great. We'll talk about that soon, folks. But okay, so let's. So how on earth did you go from being a fan of Twin Peaks to you and your parents running the festivals?
Okay, that's an interesting story. So I mentioned I first went to the festival in '94 because I missed the '93 one, and I went in '94, and I went with a friend of mine who I was in junior high and high school with, who I showed Twin Peaks to and became a big fan, and is now a lawyer in New York and is still a big fan of Twin Peaks. I recently met up with, and he went to the first festival with me, and I remember just loving it and just thinking I met my group here of friends. I met my people, and I said I want to go to this every year, and I continued to go. And then in the year 2000 and 2001, I think it was the end of 2001, the guy that was running it then said, I don't want to do it anymore. And there were some issues with the festival at that point, and it kind of looked like the festival was dead. Nobody was going to take it over. The guy that was running it stopped running it. And, at this point I think it was my senior year. I think it was my last year in college. I was at UCLA at the time, and I couldn't personally do it. I was too young. I didn't have the resources to personally run the festival. So I went to my parents and I begged them. I said, this thing can't die. Please, whatever we have to do, I'll help you with it. Can we run it? Can we do this thing? I want to save this more than anything. And they said yes. They said okay. And thankfully, we were able to do it at that point. And we kind of did a blowout in 2002. It said, we're going to really make this thing as good as possible. They were only willing to run it 2 years, but, they said, we'll find some people to pick to do it after us to keep it going. And I said, well, whoever does it, I'll help them. I'll help everybody who does it. And
so let me ask you this, though. How do you go from never doing this before to knowing, like, who to contact and how to get the people involved and all that?
Well, throughout the years, and there's some interesting stories about this, throughout the years, I got to know a lot of the cast, because also the festival was smaller. So I got to know a lot of the cast members there. It wasn't, there weren't long lines waiting to talk to the cast. One thing that was amazing about the festival is the cast was right there with everybody.
Right.
So I got to meet a lot of them, got to know a lot of them over the years. And since I lived in Los Angeles, I would hang out with a lot of them here. And it turned out that one of my dad's business associates was dating Grace Zabriskie. And I found out like in '95 was a total shock. So I got to know Grace really well and a lot of the cast that way. And kind of through that, I kind of had those, it was very friendly with a lot of them. So I was able to kind of contact them and get them to attend the festival. And then, because I kind of got involved, I think it was '96, I'd asked the Shooks who were running it if I could do a trivia game. That kind of started that. And then I kind of got involved a little bit helping behind the scenes from that point onward. So I had a bit of knowledge just from that of how to do it and who the different vendors were at the festival and what the different things were and kind of ideas about what to do with the festival. And that first year that we ran it, we kind of added some things that became kind of staples. We added the costume contest, and we added the live performance idea. Because in 2002, and this was the real wild long shot, I don't remember how it happened. I do think I remember. I think it was Chris Matthews, who was a longtime fest goer who lives in Seattle. I think he had gone to a Julie Cruz concert in Seattle. And he came back, and I think he had told my mom something like, oh, I talked to Julie Cruz. When he found out that we were taking over, he said something to her like, I talked to Julie Cruz, and she's interested in potentially doing the festival. And so I don't remember how, but I think my mom somehow found an email address and maybe Julie Cruz's manager, but I guess somehow the email got to Julie Cruz. And Julie Cruz wrote back to my mom and said, yeah, I'd be interested in doing the festival, and I'll even sing if you want. I remember thinking, whoa, that's amazing. So, that year, Julie Cruz ended up performing in 2002, which was incredible. It really felt like being in the Roadhouse. I just remember that. It felt like, And we were in a barn at that point. The opening night was in a barn in North Bend, but it felt like the Roadhouse. It was wooded in there.
I can imagine. Now, where is like Frost and Lynch during this thing? Obviously, we know where they are career-wise, but was there any attempt on your guys' part to involve them in any way?
Yeah, I mean, we did, and David Lynch would oftentimes provide things for the festival. Greg Olson was the guy that he ran the Seattle Art Museum, and we used to do the movie night at the Seattle Art Museum. So he would get things from David Lynch. He wrote a book on David Lynch called Beautiful Dark, I think somewhere around the time, like 2002. So he would get like, I remember one year he got like David Lynch's personal print of the pilot that was shown at the festival. And I do remember picking up a few things from The Office, I think in 2002, like items that were for sale that David Lynch wanted to sell. I think davidlynch.com items, as I recall, I believe. We had some of those sold at the festival. So, and then later on, I mean, my family and I, we ran it 2002, 2003, and then kind of chose 4 people to take it over from there, which were Jordan and Kelly, and then Amanda and Jared, who ended up running like the next festivals after that. For the next few festivals.
What about Mark Frost?
Mark Frost, I know that I don't think anybody ever knew how to get a hold of him. I don't think we ever got anything from Mark Frost. I don't think we ever did.
Because by the time I heard about the fest happening, they were having like Jennifer Lynch show up, and they had a lot of at that point. So it's like they were getting closer to David.
Yeah. And then he did the intro, I think in 2008 or 2007. That's on the Gold Box that he did for the festival. And he did another intro. Actually, he did another intro that's never been released. And I think it was for like the 2007 festival. This has never been released anywhere, and it's quite interesting because I remember to this day exactly what he said, and I think it only played that one time. And he said, "I hope you're all out there." And it was something like, this is paraphrasing, but it's close to this. He said, "I hope you're all out there enjoying Twin Peaks. And if you're all wondering whether the good Dale will ever leave the lodge and whether the thread will be torn in the future." That's what he said. And I remember that year at the festival was all the speculation because, of course, the thread will be torn calls back to Mike in Fire Walk with Me saying the thread will be torn, Mr. Palmer.
Right.
So I'm wondering, okay, is that something? And then that's connecting Good Dale leaving the lodge. So it's making you wonder what that line is a reference to. And I remember there was a lot of speculation that year. But that little piece never went anywhere. It only played that one time. And the one he did the next year is the one that's on the Gold Box, which, is a big thing that he did.
But around this time...
Mark Frost, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say Mark Frost. I did speak to Warren Frost one year. I remember getting a hold of Warren Frost and actually talking to him on the phone about the festival. And this is somewhere also in the mid 2000s. And I think he just wasn't.
You guys were on the forefront because, I mean, obviously, obviously there was a Comic-Con, but Comic-Con became something else, later. And so it's like, I mean, that's why I think sometimes like, is Showtime wanting to do that? When they shut down the fest, are they wanting to kind of do their own sort of like, big ultra Twin Peaks conventions, and COVID just got in the way, or what? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure on that at all. What happened to her?
But I wanted to bring it up because you were right around the time you were doing the fest with your parents. Just shortly before you were on the set of Mulholland Drive. Now, how the heck is that happening?
Okay, that was an amazing thing. So this is before, all that stuff happened with Michael J. Anderson that everybody knows about. This is way before all of that happened.
Right.
And, like through the 90s, he was a regular at the Twin Peaks Festival, and he wasn't saying the kind of stuff he was saying much later. He wasn't like that at all back then.
Right.
And at that point, I finished shooting my first feature film when I was in college, and I was editing it with him. And Richard Beamer had actually taught the two of us how to edit. And then we went and tried to use Final Cut Pro and learn how to edit and figure that out.
You were editing with Michael J. Anderson?
Yeah, my very first feature film.
Okay, because I know one of your feature films you edited with Dwayne Dunham. So
yeah, my latest one.
Okay.
This is the first one I did for almost no money. It was the first thing I ever did back when I was in college. But I edited that with Michael J. Anderson. I was working and editing that with him. And around that time, one day I go over there to edit with him, and he says, "I just got a call from David Lynch's office, and they want me to do this TV pilot called Mulholland Drive." And I just got very excited, obviously. And then, I remember he got the script, and then he said, I have to be in this big outfit. I have to play the 6 foot tall man. And they got, because he was Mr. Roke. He said, I've got to put this big outfit on me. And I kind of said to him, kind of half joking, I said something like, well, if you're going to be in that outfit all day and you're stuck in this thing, how are you going to get food or anything like that? So you're going to need somebody to help you. If you do, volunteer. And he said, okay, sure. I'll see if that's okay. And then he said, you know what? Come with me. So it was supposed to be a 1-day shoot. So I'm driving with Mike. It's on Paramount. It's on the lot of Paramount Studios. We drive through. We go onto the lot. We walk in, and we're walking, and I said, Mike, does David Lynch know I'm here? They said, oh, no, I'm just going to walk in with you. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm thinking, now I'm getting nervous. I'm thinking, I don't know if this is going to be fine.
Now pause right there. Does David Lynch, is he aware of who you are at this point? Okay. Yeah. How is that?
I've been to several events, and including this one auction where I talked to him for quite a while before. This was like, I met him several times, but really it was one auction that he did at an auction house in Hollywood where I got to have quite a big conversation with him. And it wasn't that long before this. And I think that was at this point the main way that he knew me. But after the set of Mulholland Drive, he definitely did, because he asked me Twin Peaks trivia on the set, which was quite crazy.
Now, why on earth was he talking to you about Twin Peaks?
Okay, I'll tell you this whole story. Okay, so first, so I walk in with Mike. That's why when all the stuff happened with Mike much later, and he did, I'm trying to put a polite way to put this, but everybody knows what happened. You know what I mean?
Well, David Lynch turned him into a tree. So,
well, before that, what I mean, with his.
I know.
Yeah, the crazy stuff online, all of that, but yeah, before that, before 2002, he wasn't like that. That's all I can say. He was a very fun person, and David loved him, and he was not like that. I don't know what happened, but whole other story. But anyway, so we walk in. He walks me up to David Lynch, and he says, "This is Josh. He's going to be here with me, helping me." And David Lynch sticks out his hand and says, "Yeah, I know Josh." Sticks out his hand to shake my hand, and it was like one of the most amazing moments to me, because I'm still in college at the time. I'm like, this is the most amazing thing in the world to me.
Right.
Now, I just literally got pretty much invited to watch my favorite director work on this new TV pilot. And I wanted to make films. That's what I wanted to do. So it's like, what better film school in the world than to watch your favorite director work?
And he's working with an actor that and the last time they teamed up, it was iconic.
Exactly. So I'm thinking the same thing. I see the set, the Mr. Roke office with these brown curtains. You don't see a lot of it in the film, but this brown curtain room with the glass, and it just reminded me of the Red Room. And they're putting him in the 6 foot tall thing. And when I got there, they were filming the scene with this is the girl with the Camila Rhodes doing the I've Told Every Little Star.
Oh, they were doing that?
That's the scene they were filming when I walked in.
Wow. And you're not in the background at all? Any of the extras?
I'm not in the background, no.
Oh, okay.
I stayed out of the way. I kind of had to realize that I'm only going to speak if spoken to. I made an exception with some of the cast, especially at lunch. I did introduce myself to quite a few of them. But and some of the crew members too were really, really nice, and I talked to a bit. And the producer, Neil Edison, was really nice to me. I remember that. And but so they were filming that scene, and that one took a long time because there was a lot of coverage for that scene. And they had that, and then they did a lot of this. They went over and did some of the stuff with Betty and Rita in Aunt Ruth's apartment. And then they got to Mike at the end of the night, and they didn't finish the scene. And they asked Mike, "Can you come back tomorrow?" And he says, "Yes." And I'm sitting back thinking, "Yes, I get to come another day," because I thought it was going to be a 1-day thing. And it was like,
right.
So then the second day, they film all of Mike's stuff and they're doing more of it. And near the very end, the last thing they're shooting is they're finishing up Mike's scene. And some reason, at the very end, it's getting late, and they needed, a lot of their stand-ins had gone home. And they needed somebody to stand in for Ray, who's the character that's, talking to Mr. Roke through the glass.
Right. And
I guess that was the same general height and the same skin tone, which is what they look for in a stand-in. So they asked me, somebody said, "Can you stand in?" Yeah. So I'm standing at the glass looking at Mr. Roke. They're, setting the lights. For anybody that doesn't know the stand-in, basically stand-in is somebody when the actors are in the makeup or getting ready. The stand-in comes in and just stands in the position where the actor is going to be so they can adjust the lights. So when the actor comes, the lighting's ready to go. So it's something,
or more or less ready to go.
Yeah, more or less ready to go. They'll do some last weeks, but in an ideal world.
Right.
So they just need something that's the same general height and the same general skin tone, so the lighting will be similar enough.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess I was the same general height and everything. So I remember doing that. And then after, I guess it might have been, I don't think they'd wrapped yet, but I remember I went around and I was now sitting in the room. And there's some quiet, we're waiting. And it's Mike is in his Mr. Roke outfit. I'm standing there. Peter Deming's there, David Lynch is there, and I think Jack Fisk. And I'm standing there, and Mike knows how well I know Twin Peaks at this point. So he just says to me out of nowhere, Josh, can you recite the speech that Cooper gives Leland when he's dying? Out of the blue, because it's just kind of quiet in the room for a while. And I said, I kind of looked around at David Lynch to see if he was looking at me and thinking, okay, is this okay if I do that? And I'm getting the okay, so I did it. You know, the Leland, the time has come for you to seek the path, that whole speech.
Mm-hmm.
And then David Lynch turns around to me and he says to me, what is the first line that Jack Nance says on the pilot of Twin Peaks? And I said, gone fishing. And he says, okay. He said, I'll get it. And he said, okay, here's another one. And he says, in the extended version of the pilot, what is the first thing that Mike says to Cooper when he enters the morgue? And I said, don't turn on the overheads. The fluorescents don't work. I think a transformer is bad. And then I remember he kind of looked over, I think, at Jack Fisk, and they started laughing. And he said, wow, something like that. And that's how it happened. At that point, I think I definitely made an impression at that moment. Because he's asked me trivia questions at a later time, too.
That's crazy. And because, you know, you get this feeling like that because Firewalk with Me, you know, didn't do as well as they'd hoped. You just got the feeling like he just kind of turned his back on Twin Peaks. Because I mean, he didn't work with Cheryl Lee or Kyle MacLachlan again until season 3 and all that. So to hear that actually makes me happy to hear that he was like he still cared.
Yeah, and I just remember I was just on cloud 9 at the time. I mean, that was, you know, I mean, I'm a college student at this point. It's like, you know, it was the most amazing thing in the world for me to get to experience that.
Right.
And I was just like literally on a high for a long time after that day. And then when I heard the series wasn't picked up, I was devastated because couldn't wait, you know?
Right. Well, yeah, I remember hearing that, they weren't going to air it. And I was like, okay. And then when I heard, no, he's going to reshape it into a movie. And people were like, oh, wow, that's so, revelatory of him to do it. And I'm thinking, it's kind of like what he did with the international pilot of Twin Peaks, too.
Yeah.
You know, where he just kind of added an ending to it. Obviously, this ending was more 50 minutes than 20 or so. But I mean, you're down in LA, you're working in Hollywood. I mean, between Inland Empire and season 3, 10 years goes by.
Yeah.
Right. You're no longer running the best and stuff. It's so strange because it's like I always feel like the time in between Firewalk with Me and Lost Highway felt longer to me of him not making a film than between Inland Empire and The Return.
I would agree with that. And I'm not sure why, but I would agree with that. It definitely felt longer.
Yeah.
Maybe because we were younger and time goes slower when you're younger.
Maybe. Or I just thought that it just felt Inland Empire, while I'm not the biggest fan of it, I mean, I respect it a lot, but it's not my favorite David Lynch film. Right. It didn't feel like a toss in the towel movie and then I'm done. Firewalk with Me kind of felt like, all right, well, that blew up in my face. And so I'm not going to do anything for a while. I just felt like, well, he's just kind of taking a break and doing other stuff. You know, he was obviously doing his music and things like that.
And also, you know, there's also to remember too that, you know, in between Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks, he was very, you know, he had already received pretty much the go-ahead to do One Saliva Bubble and Ronnie Rocket. So if that had happened, we would have had those two, or at least One Saliva Bubble I know was already gearing up. So we would have had that in between Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks.
And then I heard after season 2 of Twin Peaks that he was getting ready to do Ronnie Rocket. And then for whatever reason that fell through and a spot open for Firewalk with Me. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's just directors don't necessarily plan their careers. It's like what project is available to do, you know?
Right.
But you heard the rumors, like we all did, that I think it was Ain't It Cool News was the first one that I heard it from. It was like, oh, Twin Peaks is, we're hearing that rumblings, it might be coming back. And I remember thinking, wow. And I guess I just always assumed it would kind of come back as sort of a revival thing of, a new generation or something in the town, and we'd have some legacy characters.
I never thought it would come back. I was one of them. I remember every time I talked to other, friends of mine that were fans of the show and stuff, and they would ask me, I'd say, you know what? I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think we should get our hopes up. And then I remember that, USC event happened where Mark Frost made the statement, Twin Peaks is a continuing story. And that comes from both David and I, and that was 2013. I remember when Mark Frost said that, and I think that kind of got out, that got onto the internet that Mark Frost said that, and it got everybody kind of going. And I remember thinking, I hope that means what I think it means, but I can't see David Lynch going back to Twin Peaks. I just couldn't see him doing it at the time. It didn't seem like it was ever going to happen.
Hey, if Spielberg can go back to Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Right.
But we see how that turned out, though.
That's okay. I'm just saying it is possible. Yeah. Now I would love to hear that
this worked much better. Obviously, I love season 3 of Twin Peaks, so I'm not making a comparison. I'm not making a comparison to Kingdom Scroll because I love season 3 of Twin Peaks.
Now, if we heard that David Lynch was returning to Dune, that might be a different story.
Then I would say that we've entered an alternate reality.
Hey, we're already there. He was on such a high from what was it? From like the Lost Highway disc and Inland Empire and stuff, that he actually made the announcement. He's like, if Universal will let me, I'll do a new version of Dune. And I was like going, oh my God. Like I remember at the Missing Pieces premiere, a reporter asked him jokingly, like, you going to do Dune next? And he just, there's a video of him just laughing like, oh my God, like, I can't believe he even asked me that. Right. It's hilarious because it's like one of the few moments where it's like, you can tell that they caught Lynch off guard, with that one. But now he's like, oh, I'm open. So anyway, sorry for my slight pauses, guys. We have an abundance of idiots in the chat, so trolling us. So
we do,
so I have to take care of them. Anyway, so even Jennifer Lynch, who I had interviewed, she, I remember saying like, oh yeah, I keep hearing it, like, people saying that Twin Peaks coming back, and she just took a drag of her cigarette and was like, like, what do you? It's not. And then she made the statement, it's not coming back. Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think all these people were just insanely great at keeping a secret, or did they truly not know this was happening?
I think most people didn't know. I think most of the cast had no idea what was happening until it was announced.
I do know that when I interviewed the mayor of Snoqualmie, he told me, oh, I found out the same day you guys all found out. And I remember thinking, that seems strange that they would like not talk and coordinate with that area before announcing, because to announce it and then say we're going to be shooting their area, they could hike up the prices because they know you need these locations, but I think they were just so happy to have them back. And it revitalized that whole area. Now the whole thing is like a giant Twin Peaks, like, convention, like 24 hours a day up there.
Oh, absolutely.
So season 3 is being made. What are you doing as a fan? Are you letting them make it, or are you like, on the dug before them, looking for any clues, production stills, behind the scenes stuff? What are you doing?
For the most part, there's definitely a curiosity factor. I was interested to know a few things, but I didn't want to know too much, so it was,
what did you want to know?
There was a weird thing. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to know, but I know I didn't want to know too much. I know I didn't want it ruined.
Right.
So it was kind of a hard line to walk. And I remember, there were some things that were impossible to avoid. Obviously, the pictures that came out of the, what year is this? The final scene, when that, hit the internet. Of course,
hit the internet. It was live streamed on Twitter.
I wasn't even aware of that. But I remember
like 4 hour live stream on Periscope.
I remember going, Yeah, I mean, there's no way to avoid it. I go on Facebook, it's everywhere. Of course, at that point, none of us had any idea that was going to be the final scene, but
Right.
I'm seeing this and I'm thinking, okay, I'm trying to look at, is Cheryl Lee's hair red? Is this the red-headed cousin we were hearing about, rumors? What is this? Is this a dream? Why is Laura Palmer there? Is that Laura Palmer? Is it somebody else? Is that good Cooper? Is that bad Cooper? And in a way, at that point, it wasn't bad because it just opened up a million more questions rather than spoiling anything.
Right.
And of course, now at this point, when I watched the final episode, that's when it hurt knowing that. You know what I mean? Because now watching part 18, we all know that this is going to happen, that somehow Laura Palmer's going to be there. Somehow Cooper and her are going to go back to the Palmer house. We know that, which was unfortunate. So I really wish that wouldn't have happened, because that probably altered the experience of watching part 18.
Well, I just remember thinking, I think there's an episode, No Knock, No Doorbell. And I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be the episode where they go to Laura's house.
Right. I thought so too.
But yeah, it's, I remember talking to Catherine Coulson prior to them shooting. And I said, how is David going to do this? Because, I mean, David's never shot anything where people have, their own, the iPhones where people are taking pictures like on the set and stuff like that. She's like, well, we're just going to have to figure that out. And I don't think they realized what was happening until the finale, till the entire night was broadcast live on Twitter, and then TMZ picked it up. So,
wow.
And I had no idea what I was even watching. It was just somebody in the crowd, just getting shots of stuff. But I was just like, oh, that's cool and all that. And
yeah, at the point, I didn't think it was that big of a spoiler, but
Well, I just remember just telling people on this show, like, don't worry, it's not like they're gonna shoot the last scene in front of the entire town, okay?
Right. Yeah, and I remember it's going because we're all expecting that now, since everybody in the world saw that. It was impossible to avoid. If anybody had social media and was a Twin Peaks fan, that's going to pop up whether you want it to or not.
Right.
And yeah, that's the one thing I wish that wouldn't have happened because, for the reason we were just talking about, I wish that would not have.
Right. Well, they closed up shop. They went down to California and shot the rest. So,
and that really stayed all under wraps. I mean, none of the California stuff got out.
No. Although you happen to be
on
that's set.
Okay.
So now, Josh, just so people know, you've gone and toured a lot of the locations, not just for Twin Peaks, but a lot of David Lynch's stuff.
Yeah.
You live around the LA area.
I found pretty much all of them.
Right. I
mean, I've done a lot of tours.
You've been to the Isabella Rossellini set, Wild at Heart,
Blue Velvet, Wilmington. Yeah, I went to the Blue Velvet, Wilmington.
So, but you accidentally ended up at the motel where Hutch and Chantel.
Not the motel. It was the scene where
they're at the ranch. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this was at that point I was doing this job where it was making it simple. It was a permitting, basically securing permits for films, and I was not working for. It was not for Twin Peaks. It was for another film, and so I had to go out to this location, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But they do a lot of filming out there, so I was used to going out there for this job. And I'm driving out there, and I have to go to this one ranch where I kind of knew the owner because I had to do, work for this ranch a whole bunch of times for permitting. And I'm driving out there, and they filmed out in this area a lot, so a lot of times I would see filming signs, and I didn't think anything of it. But I'm driving out there on this day, and I'm seeing filming signs, and I don't know if it's on the ranch that I'm going to or not, but the signs all said RR. And of course, everybody knew at this point that Rancho Rosa was the name of the production company that was doing Twin Peaks. So I'm seeing RR, and I'm thinking, nah, could be anything, RR. It's no way. And I get up to the gate of this ranch, and there's a security guard there, which is unusual when they're filming, because normally, unless something is, high security or, they don't want people to know about it, they don't have a security guard posted at the gate of this ranch. So I stop there. I show them that I have official business. I need to talk to the ranch owner. I show them my paperwork. And I said, okay, I need to, go and talk to the owner. And then I said, out of curiosity, I said, I don't think it's for this, what they're filming here. I said, what production company is this? And the guy said, Rancho Rosa, the security guard. And I thought, You got to be kidding me. So now I'm thinking, I kind of don't want David Lynch to see me drive up in a car and get out now. I really
Right.
don't. It's going to look like I'm some kind of crazy stalker that somehow found them out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I'm actually really just here for work, I have to be here. I don't have a choice.
Right.
And so I drive up, and I didn't get close to the set. I didn't see anything there because they were filming kind of way back and where I had to go. And the owner came over to meet me, and they were the one I had to talk to and do paperwork with. So I didn't, I didn't see anything, but I could kind of hear David Lynch calling action, and I knew they were kind of back. And so the Johnny Schlementi, who was worked on the show, who I knew, he sees me come up, get out of the car, and he comes running up and says, "How in the world did you find us?" And I said, "I promise you, I didn't. I'm here for work. This is a total coincidence. It's not going to sound believable, but it's true. Here's the paperwork, I promise." And then, of course, when the ranch owner came over and I spoke to him, then they saw that he knew me. I really was there on official business. It was just a weird coincidence. And then he said, "Well, as long as you're here, do you want to grab some craft service?" And I said, "Okay." And I'm thinking, I don't know what they're filming.
Were
And I'm looking
were you like this so David didn't see you?
well, Dave, I knew that he was all the way in the back because I could hear, I knew the set was back there and I couldn't see what they were doing. Right. So I didn't, I only know because when I saw it, and I know that ranch because I did a lot of work there. So I know where they filmed the scene. So I know based on the location that it was the Hudson Chantal with Mr. C scene with the Give the Boss Man a Wet One, that scene in part 9. But at that point, I didn't know any actors that were there. I didn't see any of the cast there. I didn't see Kyle. I didn't see Hutch or Chantal. So fortunately, I didn't see Mr. C, so that wasn't spoiled.
See, I don't know who I would be more excited to see, Kyle MacLachlan, who is like a personal hero of mine, or Jennifer Jason Leigh, who like I worship as a goddess.
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, I had no idea.
No offense, Tim Roth.
Well, Tim Roth was great too. I mean,
he's great too. Yeah.
And at that point, we didn't know that Jennifer Jason Leigh or Tim Roth were in it, and I had no idea. I didn't see them, so I had no idea when I left.
Right, because the cast list wasn't out yet.
Yeah, they were still filming. So at that point, I remember I'm sitting there. I'm thinking, okay, this is like a ranchy area. What could they be filming? I'm trying to speculate in my own mind. I don't want to tell too many people about this because I'm trying to respect, the whole thing about not letting anything go. And even just saying they were at a ranch would be kind of spoilerish. So I'm keeping it to myself. I'm sitting there, I'm trying to speculate on this. Okay, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? But I'm thinking, could this be maybe Chet Desmond or Philip Jeffries? Because I think this is before David Bowie died. Because right. I remember thinking that maybe it's Philip Jeffries. And thinking, could I have been like 20 feet away from David Bowie and not known it? But I'm just trying to speculate. But and I remember, being there at the craft service, and I heard David Lynch calling cut in action, so I knew he wasn't going to see me, which I didn't want him to. But I had no idea what they filmed, and I, did my business and left. And but yeah, that was a really weird experience. So a lot of weird coincidences with Twin Peaks.
So what did you think when you saw that 240 person cast list drop?
I mean, I was amazed. And I loved a lot of it, but I had two things that I wondered, and I thought, where is Heather Graham and where's Chris Isaak?
Yep.
And I was expecting no Michael Onkeen, though I kind of had hope that he would be on there somewhere.
Why were you expecting that?
Because I had heard all the stuff about that Michael Onkeen wasn't going to do it.
Now, I had heard that he was looking for his jacket. So
I heard that, but then I heard when, it got pushed back that he wasn't going to do it. Okay. I didn't know yet about Robert Forster.
So here's my theory. In the behind the scenes stuff, you see David Lynch talking to James Belushi and a couple other actors, like on the phone, kind of walking them through what their part is going to be. Right. I'm thinking that's what they did with Michael Onkeen, and he was like, "So I'm not in the scene with Cooper. Like it's not him and I together. It's just going to be me being yelled at by my wife and like right." And I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any proof of this because I haven't seen the script, but I just get the vibe that like he bowed out and they brought in Robert Forster, but in order to honor Michael Onkeen, they just made it the brother as opposed to Harry Truman.
I wonder about this. And of course, we'll probably never know, but I'm curious if it had been Harry Truman, would he have been married to Doris Truman? Would he have done that, or would he have still had his obsession with Josie?
I think I honestly, I do think it was just the vibe I get is it was just a name change.
Yeah, because I always wondered that. So you think that Harry Truman would have been married to Doris, and that they would have the son that committed suicide and all of that?
Yes, I think it was the same story. They just changed the name.
Because I wondered about that. I have no idea one way or the other, but I was
No, I mean, there's no way. But it just seems like something easy to change, you know? It's just
right.
because I mean, Robert Forster is basically, since he was the original choice to play Harry Truman,
Yes.
right? So I
Yes,
was
he was.
at first I was thinking, well, is he just going to be Harry Truman?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be. I thought it was going to be a recast at first, and then I was wondering when I saw the cast list. I remember thinking, since David Bowie died, I remember thinking, is Tim Roth going to be Philip Jeffries? I remember wondering that for a while.
Okay.
I kind of had that theory going for a while that maybe Tim Roth would be taking over for Philip Jeffries.
Now, when I met Chris Isaak, he confirmed to me that they had asked him to be in season 3. He obviously didn't tell me the capacity of the or size of the role, but he said that he was inquired about being a part of it, and he said that he was very sick, bedridden at the time, or else he would have agreed to do it. Makes you wonder.
Yes, it does.
Where Chet Desmond would have. I
Yes,
mean, would he have just been a one line in the Black Lodge type of thing, or would they have given him a part?
He might have been like a Leland Palmer type.
It very well could have been.
Yeah,
because like I remember it was announced as 9 episodes, and then it became 18, and you know, I still think it was a script for 9 episodes that they just kind of stretched out to 18. But yeah, I wonder, because I mean, I kept hearing that David Lynch was, I mean, all filmmakers do this, but I kept hearing that he was rewriting a lot.
Yeah.
Prior to,
I remember reading about that too, that he would rewrite, and then I think he'd send it off to Mark and say, I rewrote this, and then he would,
But some things like,
I remember reading it.
Like the ending, that was being rewritten like on the spot before they even did a take. And I'm not sure if he sent it to Mark Frost or not, but
might not.
But I heard stories about him just kind of on the couch or whatever, just jotting things
Which
down.
makes me wonder how it originally ended. If the Alice Tremont scene wasn't in there, then what was it?
Well, again, I don't know what is real and what is not real, because one of the things that happened was that after that ending scene, Kyle and Shirley get back in the car and drive away. Now, I don't know if that was just for them to go back to their marks and do it again, or whether the characters literally said, okay, I guess this is this didn't work out the way we want to, so let's go somewhere else.
I guess, the only way to know would be to know if the camera was rolling when that happened, because it could have been them just getting in the car and resetting too.
Exactly. Right.
So we'd have to know from somebody that was there if the camera was rolling at that point. Then we would know, right. Because if they did get in the car and drive away, then that, it obviously changes things a lot.
Well, so does having Balthazar Getty's trailer in the area too.
Yes.
that really changes a lot.
And Red is one of the interesting, points about season 3 for me, is that I've always, that's obviously a story that seems like it's going to continue. And that's one of the things that makes me think that there may be a season 4 planned, or may have been, because of that Red storyline, because it's clearly leading somewhere. He does the trick with the dime. I know there's a popular theory about him being a grown-up Pierre Tremont.
Right.
I don't know about that theory. I don't think that the Tremonts would necessarily age, but it's an interesting theory that he still might have a connection to that. So I think the whole Red storyline is something that kind of indicates that that there was the possibility of it continuing, that alone, just because of what it sets up.
Well, doesn't season 3 feel like a complete setup for the spike that is season 4?
And I think we talked about this on the phone too, that part 18 almost feels like the beginning of another season.
Right.
Where part 17 kind of closes season 3, and part 18 is almost like. And of course, we have, this thing that nobody knows anything about, this Wisteria Unrecorded Night. And, who knows? I mean, is there any, but it was with Netflix. See, that's the thing that throws me. I wondered if that was Twin Peaks season 4, but it was with Netflix, which kind of throws that theory out the window.
I'm under the assumption that if it was a show or movie or whatever it was, that it was called Unrecorded Night. because Blue Velvet, Elephant Man, Twin Peaks,
Yeah,
he likes the double words. But I think it was probably a Wisteria production.
right. Wisteria would be like the Rancho Rosa production.
Exactly. I mean, come on though, Josh. I mean, talk about gaslighting. Every person affiliated with Twin Peaks that was like, still on social media were posting those dang flowers,
I remember that. Yeah. When
right?
that happened, that's when I thought, okay, maybe we are getting a Twin Peaks season 4. Maybe Netflix made a deal with CBS. I remember thinking all these things at that point, and I'm sure we were
Well,
all thinking that, but
well,
and hoping.
and then when Charlotte Fan was like, "Well, I don't know, I just thought it was a pretty flower." I'm like, "Come on, like
Yeah,
everybody's posting this."
yeah.
Um,
So I mean, down to Andrea Hayes, Heidi was posting it, too, and
Sabrina dyed her hair purple,
yeah.
right?
I mean, it
I mean,
definitely seemed like there was something there, but
there had
maybe
to have
we'll
been
never know.
something there. There had to have been. You just don't randomly everybody. Hey, you know what? Let's troll the Twin Peaks fans and post
Right.
flowers.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
the other thing is that whenever there was an article written about it, well, what could this mean, and all that, um, there would be no pushback from Lynch Frost Productions. Nobody would come out and say nothing's happening, guys. You don't get your hopes up. Like they would just let the rumors continue on and percolate.
Right.
So I don't know.
I,
It's
I just saw. I just turned on the commentary and saw this comment where non-existent says, "Someday I hope we all get to see the original script for Twin Peaks season 3, The Return." And I would agree with that. I would think it would be amazing if we got like. Do you remember how the Lost Highway book that had the script book and the Straight Story had a script book? If that would be released for season 3 of Twin Peaks, that would be amazing.
So let me ask you something. Why? Okay, I think I have my reason. Why do you think the script hasn't been released?
I don't think that David wants us to know the answers to these questions that we have. I think that he is very much in the mindset of the finished film is the final thing, and everything that led up to that doesn't matter. So I think that he doesn't want us to know these questions that we have about what was Harry Truman going to do. Now what was Chet Desmond going to do? I don't think he wants us to know that right now, and I think he only wants us to know what the final work is, and not because I think he's very much a believer. Remember there's that line in the deleted scenes in Wild at Heart where Lula says this here's a story that there's a right time and a wrong time for things to happen. I think that's David Lynch's philosophy, and I think that he believes that when a film ends up a certain way, if certain things happen, like Michael Anke not doing that, that's the way that it's meant to be in the finished whole, and that he kind of doesn't want people to know.
This is also a man who once upon a time said he was never going to release any deleted scenes, and now you can't stop the man from doing it.
Though I wish we'd get the Lost Highway ones. I was hoping for that in that Criterion release.
Okay.
I have to say.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just going to buy the Criterion Lost Highway. I will, because I want it on 4K, and I want to have a Blu-ray of Pretty as a Picture. Okay.
Yes.
I do.
Same here.
But the fact that the deleted scenes are not on there after waiting for so long, and the fact that some are in Pretty as a Picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? We get the shot of the Johnny scene where they're playing with the hoses, where Pete Daden drives it. Yeah.
Right. So to me, I feel like it's a letdown. It really is a letdown.
It is. I was really hoping when I heard Criterion release, I was really hoping because there are because again, the Lost Highway had, he released a script book where we could see what all those scenes were.
Okay. I don't even remember getting that book, but
I ended up buying. Yeah, it was released right after the movie. It was the Lost Highway script book, so it was in book form, but it was the whole script
with all the scenes, with the Mink Stole scenes put back in.
Yep, the Mink Stole scenes were in the script, all of it, and it's all in that script. So when you see that, I mean, there's the third videotape because in the final film there's 3 videotapes. There were supposed to be 4, and there's a third videotape that's in the script. I know I'm okay saying this because that script book was released, so I know I can say this out loud for that reason.
Well, I mean, Barry Gifford always says that like the film made a lot more sense, and then Lynch would just like cut out scenes that would explain things.
And then there was the scene in the morgue, and I don't know if this is true or not, but this is a rumor. I've never been able to confirm this. There's a scene in the morgue where there's a morgue attendant that shows up, and then apparently I've heard rumors that David Lynch played the morgue attendant, and they have Renee Madison's body wrapped in different parts. And I don't know if that's true or not.
Is this a continuation of his role from Nadja?
That's what I thought when I heard it too. It must be maybe the same character.
Oh yeah, it's the crossover universe.
Yeah, crossover between Nadja and Lost Highway. But there's the whole scene, and then the camera like goes into the drain. It says in the script where I guess there's like hairs in the drain, which is a very Lynchian shot. I mean, it would just be amazing to see some of this. And there's a lot more, with the I mean, I talked to a couple actors that were in the scene in the Lost Highway with the death row, where the prisoner gets put to death in the electric chair. And we see him getting marched down. And the actor that played the priest was the same guy, John Apicella, that plays Jeffrey Marsh in Twin Peaks.
Oh, okay.
So I interviewed him for something, I think a documentary I was doing with some friends of mine that we showed at the festival like in 2009. And we interviewed him, and I'd heard that he was in that, and I asked him, and he said yes, and talked a little bit about that scene and like all the lights going off and going crazy. And so, I mean, there's so many scenes. It would be, I hope that we'll still get another release with those Lost Highway deleted scenes, because they'd be amazing. Too.
And I would like to see the Hour of the Elephant Man that hasn't been seen.
Yes. And there was that one. This is, I guess, the benefit of living in LA is you get all these screenings with people involved. But there was a screening of The Elephant Man at UCLA, and I think this is when I was going there. And Jonathan Sanger, who's the producer, and who also directed episode 26, Counting the Pilot of Zero of Twin Peaks. I'm not going to call it by the other name because there's no title for it.
Right.
But Jonathan Sanger, he was there, and he actually told me that in one of the original cuts that there was a scene where the poem that John Merrick at the end. Spoiler alert if anybody hasn't seen The Elephant Man. John Merrick at the end, when after he lies down and dies, and he sees his mother, and she says that poem, "Nothing will die."
Right.
There's an earlier scene, and apparently it was in an earlier cut and cut out before the release, according to what Jonathan Sanger told me. And this deleted scene was one where Treves is reading the same poem to John Merrick. And so that one apparently stayed in for a while. But there's a ton in The Elephant Man when you read that script too that was cut out of the film. That would be great too.
And then to hear that a lot of the scenes that they cut out of the straight story were all like comedy scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Lynch says that the film was so heartfelt that that the comedy scenes were ruining the movie, so they took a lot of those out, which is, I understand why you would do that, but like it is kind of amazing.
Yeah, Alvin Strait gets pulled over by the police twice in scenes that were cut out of the film.
Oh, okay.
And one of them, they asked him about the deer, the deer horns, and he says, "Oh, that was roadkill." So definitely comedy, but
yeah.
And that's at the moment. I think he probably took it up because that's the moment, right after he crossed the bridge, which is kind of now more of a solemn thing as he's getting closer to his brother. So maybe I think he probably thought that putting comedy in there might have at that moment.
Right. But then to have Harry Dean Stanton basically come out, as the character from Fire Walk with Me,
Right.
Alvin, what are you doing here? And all that. Well, so
he wasn't disturbing him before 9 a.m. or 9:30 as he later changed it to, He gave himself an extra half hour between Fire Walk with Me and season 3.
There you go. Yeah. I remember when it first came out, when season 3 came out, people were like, oh wow, I guess Deer Meadows is like closer to Twin Peaks than we seem or were led to believe. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, no. What happened was, as David Lynch said, again, I'm speculating, but I know this is true. David Lynch said, we need to get Harry back in this thing. And Mark Frost said, yeah, but that was further down the state. That's Deer Meadow, right? And David goes, well, this will be the new Fat Trout Trailer Park.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
That's exactly how it happened. And that's how it happened.
Exactly. I think you just had the exact conversation, Cameron. Actually, I think that's exactly what it was.
Right. I've always maintained that if they don't want to put out a season 4, what they could put out, I mean, I don't know if they ever recorded this or not, but I would have loved if they put out the Zoom call recordings of Lynch and Frost writing the script.
Oh, it'd be a fly on the wall on that one, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But I will say the most tense part of season 3 for me, of the whole thing, was first episode after the opening credits, that 3 seconds of black before we faded into the giant's foot.
Yes.
Because I was like going, this is going to be the first image of Twin Peaks we've seen in 25 years or so, right?
Yeah.
And that was the most tense ever. And when I saw that scene, the first scene with the giant and the fireman and Cooper now, I remember thinking, oh my God, like I had been thinking this whole time that they were gonna like, I don't know, kind of introduce like a new mystery and kind of bring in the new viewers, and then kind of weave in. Nope, right off the bat, it's like,
Which told me this is for us.
Right, it's for us only.
Yeah.
Like new fans, go away.
Right. This is for us. That's what I thought when I saw it. I said, okay, he is making this for us, the diehard fans of the show. Right. And then I thought, okay, this is, and that moment on, I remember that summer was just such an amazing time. That summer of 2017, it literally felt like a gift.
Absolutely.
That's what it felt like we were being given a personal gift.
And after 2020, it really was a gift.
Oh yeah, we had no idea what was coming.
We had no idea. But some people do look back at season 3 and say, "Wow, it does kind of predict like a pandemic and a lot of other things, right?"
It does.
Yeah, but I remember after the finale of season 3 thinking, "Okay, any day now they're going to make the announcement. We're coming back in a year, or a year and a half, or whatever it was," and that we're still waiting.
I thought so too. I really did. At the end of that, I thought, okay, because I remember watching part 18 and thinking, okay, if this ends on a cliffhanger, it's either going to end the show or it's not, and if it doesn't, the door's open for more.
Right.
And I thought the door's open for more.
I think everybody does. I mean, I know there's some people who say, "Well, it ended perfectly," but people said that at the end of season 2 as well. When the idea of a season 3 coming out, they were like, "Well, it ended perfectly. Leave it alone."
And I'd come to accept the season 2 ending because, like I said, I was always one of the naysayers that thought there never will be a season 3. So I had come to accept that and the end of Fire Walk with Me was the end of Twin Peaks. And of course, I was happy to be wrong. I've never been happier to be wrong in my life. But
it is kind of the ending in a way, because season 3 is completely like its own thing, even though it is based upon everything that came before. It is
right.
I mean, I think, now don't get me wrong, because I'm not saying this as a mean thing, because obviously fans are fans, but I do think that if you were an original fan of Twin Peaks back in the day, if you were old enough to be able to do that, I think one of the pleasures of season 3, and one of the reasons why it was so powerful for people like Josh and I, is that gap of time between Fire Walk with Me and season 3. So if you watched it on Netflix or got the Blu-rays, and then a year or two later you got season 3, you're going to have one type of experience. But like we're talking about in 2000 with Lynch saying Twin Peaks is Des Doornail and all that kind of stuff, to have gone through 25 years of nobody liking your show, ever hearing the show, disrespecting the show, even the town telling you the show never basically existed, move on with your life, to then have it back. I think one of the things that season 3 is about is missing that, or that absence of time, and what that does to somebody.
Oh, absolutely. The passage of time, nostalgia, all of that are, and age, are all major themes.
Right. So it's like you can have one experience one way, just like people who, like, you just showed it to somebody and you binged seasons 1, 2, and 3 in a row. And for you, they felt like there hadn't been like a gap in time. It just went straight through.
Exactly. To them, it felt very natural, actually, going straight through. Because I said, did you notice like a difference? And they thought, no, it just felt like, continuing the story.
Absolutely. So,
which part 8 made a definite impression, but that, stands out anyway.
Yeah. And I like how it's kind of like in the middle, although I do joke around sometimes going, can you imagine if they just begun season 3 with the atom bomb?
Yeah.
Because
with,
see,
you July 16th, 1945, right at the beginning.
I mean, you would get this. When I saw that atom bomb go off, I literally jumped, and my wife was like, "What's what?" And I was like, "This is the original opening for Fire Walk with Me. What they're doing right now."
Yep, with the Eisenhower on the TV, and
right. I mean, obviously they didn't do the houses and stuff like, because that would have been too much like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Speaking of Spielberg going back. But I mean, when that atom bomb went off, I remember thinking, oh my God, this is what I've been hearing about for years. The original concept, Fire Walking, was going to begin with an atom bomb. And I almost think if Fire Walk with Me had begun with an atom bomb, Fire Walk with Me doesn't get the bad reviews it gets in 1992.
Which also makes me wonder if the frog moth would have found its way into Fire Walk with Me.
Hey,
Also, if that had happened.
the frog
Because the
moth is
Woodsmen
in.
do appear in.
Yeah, but the frog moth is in the visitor's guide.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
Well, kind of, but it basically is.
It looks like the frog moth, yeah.
Enough of it.
Enough. I remember, yeah, going back to that after it aired and thinking, wait a minute. Yeah, kind of, it looks like it. But the frog moth comes from David Lynch's experience on that trip to the desert with he says Jack, I believe it was Jack Fisk, not Jack Nance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that story? It's on it's on the Inland Empire DVD extras. He tells the story about, I believe it was some reason, I'm trying to remember where it was. I think it was in Eastern Europe. It's on the extras for anybody watching of the Inland Empire DVD where he tells the story, David Lynch. And I think it's also in his autobiography.
This is in between the quinoa.
In between the quinoa. And actually, I believe it is in the quinoa extra. I believe that's where it is.
Okay.
I believe it's in the quinoa extra.
So he's out in the desert like Jim Morrison, and he has a vision of a frog moth.
Kind of, but it's more like he's on a train. He says with Jack, but I think it's Jack Fisk, not Jack Nance.
Okay.
And he's on a train, and they get off the train, and there's somebody selling this little soda water out in the middle of nowhere at the stop in the train. And he says on this, he says, there were frog moths jumping in the sand. Frog moths were jumping. So he saw something out in this desert that I guess were big moths that he thought looked like frog moths. And that's kind of, I think, where he got that image. So it's very possible. I mean, I don't know because I've never seen that early draft of Fire Walk with Me, but I know you're probably getting what you're saying from the Robert Ingalls interview, as am I. And I think that there's I wonder if that was part of that. Earlier on. Considering also, like you mentioned, the Access Guide.
Well, there was also the fact that, it was supposed to be Cooper and Sam Stanley and Teresa Banks. It's supposed to be Cooper in bed with Laura, not Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think, honestly, that scene between Cooper and Laura, I'm not a fan of it. I'm glad that it got changed. But I think that kind of scene is what made Kyle go, I can't do this, Dave.
It could be, but here's another way to look at that scene, because I thought the same thing. Why would Cooper be in bed romantically with Laura? But what about this as a possibility? What if that's Mr. C?
Well, that'd be different. But it's not as going to say Mr. C or Doppelganger in the script. So
it does say Cooper, but
All right. So Frank in the chat wants to know, what do you think the big bells are for in the White Lodge?
I'm sorry?
What do you think the big bells are for
in
the White
big
Lodge?
Bells.
Why is the giant walking around with these giant bells?
Okay. The first giant bell is the one that's buzzing.
Right.
And that's the one that he presses. That's like a fire alarm.
I think you hit a button because you're all pixelated now. You're now.
Oh, I didn't hit anything. But
okay.
Is it just maybe the internet?
I don't know.
Or maybe let me check my tablet. This app drains my battery.
It zoomed in and then you went pixelated. We can see you, but it's just a little bit. You're a little more distorted. Yeah, you look like Matt Gaetz now.
I guess as long as my audio is okay, right?
Okay. No, you're fine now. You're fine now.
Okay. So I was going to answer. Okay, the bells. Okay, so I think they serve several different purposes. The first one, he's called the fireman, and I believe the first one essentially is a fire alarm.
Right.
So when the atomic bomb goes off and it opens up that space-time continuum, which allows the experiment, who I believe to be Jowday or Judy, through, that allows her to basically spit up everything, including Bob and all the eggs. And notice there's a bunch of eggs, not just one. There's tons of eggs. So we don't know where these other ones went. So when that happens, I think that the fireman, he basically that he's in there and he's acting as, keeping equilibrium, keeping balance in a way in the world. And I think that's basically what he's trying to do. So when that fire alarm goes off, balance has been disturbed by allowing this evil to come into the world that shouldn't come into this world from another world. And that's a fire alarm. So the first bell acts like a fire alarm, which tells him to go into the other room where he then sees the bomb and, Bob coming down and everything else on the screen. And in response to restore the equilibrium, he creates the golden orb with Laura Palmer. But I think that the other bells in there probably serve other kind of we see a lot of machinery. Remember in part 17 when Mr. C is kind of locked in that box and we see all these gears and stuff turning. So I think these other bells in that main room are all basically kind of control mechanisms that run, they're machines that run basically all this apparatus that we see there, which I believe is essentially the firemen dreaming things up into our world. And it almost acting in a sort of Vishnu sort of way. I don't know if the way that Vishnu acts, in Hinduism, where he maintains the world in a dream.
So why is he running around the Black Lodge in a bathrobe in the making of scenes?
Without knowing the context of that scene, it's hard to say, but I wonder that too.
No, because he shows up in the second season finale.
Yes,
right.
In the
Black Lodge. And even Mike says he is known to us. So obviously he's a thorn in their side.
Correct. Yes, he is definitely a thorn in their side. And, being with the White Lodge and everything, that is definitely what he's trying to do. But I don't see him as a pure force of good. I see him as more of a force of balance, that he will do things either way to maintain an equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people think he's a force of good, but, if he was, he'd be a little bit more helpful than he is.
Right, because he's kind of sneaky. He's like, the things I tell you will not be wrong. It's like, okay, thanks.
And how about, the log lady getting the message there are owls at the roadhouse, which draws Cooper over to the roadhouse where the giant/fireman appears while Maddie's being murdered across town.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that I think that he allows certain evil, but he can't allow it to get too far. I think that he is basically, David Lynch talks about the unified field, and I do think that purple ocean probably is that.
The one from Dune, from Dune that he brought over into season 3.
That one, yes. But maybe he even meant a similar way in Dune. I think that's that ocean of consciousness he talks about, and that kind of a area of unmanifest where anything can become manifest.
Right. Well, you have the giant, then you have the little man. I mean, right there, you're getting a balance, right? I mean,
yes. And I think a lot of it is that. I think that's kind of what the fireman giant does. I don't think it's necessarily a force of good or bad, but because he is opposed to these Black Lodge forces in a certain way, he's definitely a thorn in their side. Because I think that Laura Palmer is a destructive force against Zhao Day, not against Bob, because we know that Bob was able to try to possess her.
So in the second season, though, in the Tim Hunter episode where Leland dies, and you quote, Dick Tremaine turns and says, "Got a light," and the smoke hits the fire alarm, and the fire alarm is what causes the rain. Or from the sprinkler to go off, which makes Leland smash himself into the door.
Right. Metaphorical water on fire.
Right. So I'm always thinking that was that sort of the giant kind of, helping to kind of release Bob a little bit.
That could be. It could be. And it is, I always thought that was interesting too, the use of "got a light."
Right.
But with Dick Tremaine as opposed to the woodsman.
Which is something that Mark Frost would remember to bring in.
Yes, it is.
Right. Yeah, because there's certain things in season 3 where I'm like, that's a Mark Frost touch. Because I don't think David would probably remember that, but who knows? Maybe from your trivia with you and him, he does remember all this stuff. Although right before season 3, I have to say, as much as I love David Lynch, okay, right before season 3, having him do articles or interviews where he was throwing season 2 under the bus made me very, very sad because some of his best work he's ever done is in season 2.
Oh, I agree. I mean, yes, episodes, 14 or 15, depending, the one I'm talking about, the reveal episode is just incredible. The finale of season 2 is, one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. It's still one of my favorite things ever.
And his performance as Gordon Cole is off the charts good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when he comes back in, and I know we talked about this before, I'll count the pilot as 0 and use the official titling. Episode 25, which is when Gordon Cole first comes back, the diner scene with Annie and Cooper, where Gordon first sees Shelley.
Right.
I mean, yeah, all of that is, is really great stuff. That Gordon Cole coming back. I remember talking about the show getting on track. When Gordon Cole walks in there, you just feel everything, falling right back into place.
Right. I just never understood why Philip Gerard or / Mike doesn't come back past the Laura Palmer arc.
Yes. And even now, technically, we don't really see Philip Gerard in season 3 in what you would call the real world.
That's true.
I mean, every time we see him, he's in either the lodge or the convenience store or the Dutchman's. or somewhere else.
I was always hoping that Leland Palmer was going to be one of those forces helping Dougie out.
Oh yeah,
you know, helping him find Laura or something like that.
that would have been nice. Yeah, yeah, because he keeps saying find Laura, which again goes back to my whole idea that I think that Laura is a neutralizing force on Judy. And part of the reason why Bob wanted to possess her is because she can die and her spirit lives. But, you know, I am dead, yet I live. But if Bob possesses her, he controls her, threat neutralized.
Right. And I remember people saying, well, I don't understand why Bob's looking for Judy because he was married to her, like Leland and Sarah Palmer. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
No.
Like, Bob was in Leland, but Jaude or Judy, whatever, was not in Grace Zabriskie until it blasted out of that glass.
Correct. I agree 100%.
It used the frog moth that had been distilled inside of her as a beacon to know where to go.
Exactly. I agree 100%. And I think that when she's watching, you know, I think Judy's probably approaching her when she's watching the footage, the TV show with the animals attacking. I think that is biting the neck, you know, which is very similar to what we see, you know, biting heads and necks, which we see Judy doing out of the glass with Sam and Tracy. And again, Sarah Palmer with the truck you guy. Right. Biting his neck. And I think that is.
I wish that had been Buck.
You know, the person I just showed it to, when he saw that guy, he said, "Is that Leo Johnson's father?" And I thought, you know, I never thought of it that way, but how does the age match up? I don't know. He's probably too young to be Leo Johnson.
Well, one thing we were also talking about too is the whole sort of Wyndham Earl motif that is sprinkled in season 3, even though he's never name dropped once.
Yeah,
in season 3, but we have the bonsai trees, obviously this theme showing up during the sleepwalker moment. You know, there's a few other things here and there, and it's just like they never once say Wyndham Earl, but he is there.
Yeah, and of course we talked before too about the end of part 7 with Wyndham Earl's theme fading into Sleepwalk.
Right, that's what I mean.
And then of course, you know, we get and it was exciting too. I remember first getting the mention of Annie when they find the diary page.
Right.
You know, with
I do like the fact that because Laura had given the diary to Harold Smith, that she then had to like write it on some like manila paper.
Yeah, right? Because she wouldn't have had the diary. Exactly.
She wouldn't have had the diary. But the fact is that but they allude to the fact that those are the pages that Leland Palmer ripped out of the diary, but it's like he couldn't have because the diary was already given to Harold Smith and
Hawk found those pages.
Right. But the thing is, though, is that if you do a page count of what they found, they're off by a couple pages. Right.
Because you also got to consider, remember in the season 2 premiere, they said Hawk also found down the train tracks from the crime site pieces of torn paper. And then when Gordon Cole comes in episode 13, he says that they were from a diary. And then in the finale of season 2, when they mentioned Glastonbury Grove, Hawk says, "That's where I found the bloody towel and the pages from the diary."
Right.
So Hawk definitely found your diary. I always thought you knew it was me. Those pages from Fire Walk with Me that Leland has there were ones he threw at Glastonbury Grove that Hawk later found.
But
so
those are the pages that when Laura and Fire Walk with Me opens up the diary, they're already ripped out, which is prior to the Annie message.
Which means the Annie message would be pages, like you said, she wrote later, after Harold Smith got them, which would mean we don't even know if Leland Palmer would have got a hold of those or not. Those could have. I never really thought Leland Palmer put those in the.
No, I believe it's Major Briggs.
I thought it may have been Philip Gerard.
It's one of them.
But Major Briggs was an interesting theory too.
I mean, it's someone who's been in the lodges that knows how to maneuver time.
Major Briggs that's an interesting theory. Actually, I never thought of that one. I like that though.
Well, considering that they talk about how he was kind of hiding out in the lodges and moving all around and stuff like that, I feel like that he's definitely sort of an Annie Philip Gerard kind of thing where it's like, okay, well, once you've touched time and space, you can kind of, I mean, the fact that he's even in the second season, there's a scene of him sitting on a throne for like one shot, right?
Which everybody thought was the White Lodge before. I remember hearing that theory a lot.
So,
but I do believe that Major Briggs was actually taken to the White Lodge in a similar way to the way that Andy was, that we see in season 3. I do believe that's what occurred. Major Briggs says he believes he was taken there, and I think that the fireman / giant did take him to prepare him for certain things. And basically, I think he, like we see with Andy, put certain knowledge in people's minds that may come into play. They won't know it right away, but it'll come into play later.
I wish we could have gotten more info on the Doug Puzz, or as what I like to call the Renegade Dead Poet Society members.
You got to get Robin Williams in there to play one of them.
Because I always felt like they were like little tall Jawas running around here, So
that would have been nice to have seen. Yeah.
There's just little things like that. Okay, since you know so much, do you remember? I can't remember what magazine it was, but Dana Ashbrook did an interview when Firewalk with Me came out, and Dana Ashbrook was like, "Yeah, we're going back to the root of the way things were. We're not dealing with that UFO shit anymore."
Right.
And I remember reading that, going, "I like that UFO shit."
Well, I think the UFO stuff, I think a lot of that was Mark Frost.
Yes.
And especially judging by the secret history of Twin Peaks, where it's so prevalent. I think that was, I'm not basing this on anything, but just an opinion on my knowledge of Mark Frost and David Lynch. I think that Mark Frost was more interested in the UFO angle, and David Lynch was more interested in more of that kind of unknown supernatural aspect.
Sure, of course.
And I think that there may have been, they may have not seen that one eye to eye.
So non-existent in the chat says Leland could have put the pages there before he was released. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're sure that it was Leland, or no, it wasn't Leland.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you 1 to 10?
I would say I'm pretty high that it wasn't. It was Deputy Hawk making a guess, because Leland was arrested for killing Jacques Renault when he's talking to Maddie in episode 10. He's on the couch talking to Maddie.
Right.
Remember, and he says, "Oh, Maddie, if only life could be like the summers up at Pearl Lakes." And then he looks up, and Truman and Cooper are there, and they arrest him. So what that would mean is that Leland at that moment would have had to have had those pages on him.
Right. The other theory, of course, that it could have been Mike Philip Gerard in the toilet stall when he was doing the haloperidol stuff.
Right, because we see him in there. Exactly.
We see him in there. I do not think 100%. I do not believe it was Leland Palmer. I think this Hawk making an educated guess.
I agree,
but he doesn't.
Yeah, he wouldn't know for sure. Because why would Leland, when he's sitting there on the couch with Maddie, why would he have those pages on him? Where he has his arm around Maddie. She could find those pages. That's really risky. There's no reason he would have.
Maybe he wanted to shove them in Jacques Renault's face and be like, "Look what you made me do." I don't know.
I always thought you knew it was me.
Yeah, exactly. He just snuffed him out with a pillow instead.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say almost definitely not Leland.
Because he would have ripped up the pages and did the Trump thing and flushed them down the toilet.
Yeah, there's no way he would have. There's no reason why. He ripped up the other ones and then he faded them enough where they couldn't read what was on them, the ones that he has in Fire Walk with Me.
Right.
So if he had found those other pages, I don't think Leland did find them, because Laura was aware that Leland found the diary, ripped out the pages. That's why she gave it to Harold Smith. So when she wrote those other pages, she would have put those somewhere that wouldn't have been easily accessible to Leland.
And then they cleverly called the new character Carrie Page.
The missing page, yeah. But then we also have, it's spelled differently, but then we have Beverly and Tom Page. So we get this doubling again that we get throughout Twin Peaks.
And we have Richard Horn and Linda from the Fat Trout Trailer Park.
Yeah, Mickey's seeming girlfriend or wife that was in the war, that's in the wheelchair, and that was
right.
We
both had this. We both had the theory. Both had the theory that was going to be Cooper and Annie's daughter, and that Richard was going to be Cooper, Mr. C, and Audrey's son. Yeah, so and two birds with one stone.
Yep, that those two are going to be connected somehow. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And we failed on that theory.
Yeah, we did. We fell for the red herring on that one, because that was a very good red herring.
It was very good.
We never guessed it was Cooper and Diane at that point, huh? Nobody guessed that one.
And based off the original script of Fire Walk with Me, I've always said that, well, if you're going to do that, Cooper should have just led Laura out of the woods and into the motel.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people missed a shot. Now, you notice in part 17, when Cooper's leading Laura through the woods, there's one shot where we see the White Lodge entrance. We see the single sycamore tree, the 253 yards east of Jack Rebel's palace. We see that spot. And it
was a cut line. It was a cut line in the making of behind the scenes and the ZA box.
Beware the 13th sycamore.
Beware the 13th sycamore, which is never. They cut that line for whatever reason.
Which the 13th sycamore, I thought it could refer to that sycamore, or it could refer to the arm, the evolution of the arm.
Right.
But it seems because the 13th Sycamore, the fireman saying that leads to where he is.
Right.
So it makes me wonder: is it more about the evolution of the armed doppelganger, who seems to be a little bit more violent?
A little more violent. He's exploding out of the floor.
Yeah, understatement.
Yeah. So anyway, a couple of other things we should touch on before we go, because it's very exciting, and Josh and I have been in touch about this. This is going to be the first of, I hope, many appearances, because we got a lot to discuss about a lot of different things. But we do have an announcement we're going to make towards the end of the show. But before that, I just have to ask, because it's my show, and I'm going to ask. And I've been trolled all night in the chat from some of you lovely trolls, so I'm going to talk about it. Josh, give me your, your review of Queen of Hearts.
Oh yes.
Because you've been there from the beginning. You've seen you've seen so many of the fan works and stuff like that.
Yes, I have.
How did you hear about the film? Did you know the film was being made, or did someone just say it's out? Check it out.
I'd seen about it. I had seen things about it when you first posted the early teaser.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen I think an early teaser with I think you had Annie walking by the church.
Okay.
And I remember hearing about it. I remember kind of hearing that you were going to deal with Annie and Caroline, which I was immediately interested, because those are two things, and I really like the fact that we have your film, and then we have, Thor Amley's film where he did the Summer House of Pearl Lakes, which I was, very much like that both of those exist, because those are two areas that are very intriguing that we never, get to learn too much about.
Right.
And immediately I was very interested in seeing that. And then when I watched,
let me pause you right there.
Okay.
You just made me think about Pearl Lakes. It ends with a joke, but I think there is a missed opportunity in there in season 2 with Catherine talking about. Do you think that was a ruse story to get Truman off where she's been, what she's been plotting, or do you think she really was talking about a mystical thing that happened?
I think she was making up the mystical part, but I think that Andrew Packard had been hiding out at their old cabin in Pearl Lake the whole entire time he was supposedly dead. And I think she went there to meet with Andrew, and that's where they came up with the whole Taj Mahal plan. So I think the whole mystical thing she was making up for Truman's benefit, but I do believe she went to an old cabin.
Well, because they put that awesome Badalamenti music underneath it, I buy that she's been touched by one of the lodges.
As do I. Yeah, I did when I watched it, but I think in retrospect, because we know Andrew's been missing,
right?
So it would make sense that he would help her plot that whole revenge scheme. We know that he was involved in that, so I think it would make sense that whether she went to Pearl Lake or not, I think she definitely went to meet with Andrew Packard, where they kind of schemed what they were going to do. But I do think that she made that up for his benefit. But she tells the story very well, and yes, the music definitely helps, and
the music sells it as like, well, maybe there's something else going on here.
Yeah, the angels wouldn't help you because they've all gone away. Well, they didn't go away for Catherine, I guess, right?
No. And in fact, when Diane came out of, when NATO turned into Diane, I remember turning to my wife and I said, for the second time, an Asian person has turned to a white woman.
That is true. That is very true.
All right, go ahead. Continue on, please.
That is very true. Okay, yes, Queen of Hearts. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, that's when I first had heard about it. And then then I saw it all together.
So you didn't watch the acts, you just watched it as the one
I watched
film.
it as one piece.
Okay.
I watched it as one piece. And many, many, many impressions. I really thoroughly enjoyed the entire thing. And one of the things that I really loved, and I know I mentioned this to you before, was
the trolls will love hearing you say that, by the way. I just gotta say.
I have to go this close because my eyesight's very bad right now, so I have to go this close.
No, it's fine.
I missed them. I did not see any of that.
That's okay.
Probably for the best. But yeah, look, somebody puts out a film, everybody's entitled to, think what they want. But with something like this, I think what you look, as somebody that's made films, I know the difficulty in getting it together, getting a cast, getting locations, getting camera, getting equipment, getting crew, putting together a film. Just the sheer impossibility of all those elements coming together to have a finished work. And then to have a finished work that's 4 hours, and to have a finished work that's 4 hours, and is this watchable? It's
and for something that is very personal to you and me and to other people, to not like upset their nostalgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was respectful to the work that came before.
Sure.
I particularly loved seeing the stuff with Caroline, because that was always an element that I was interested in, is what was Caroline like? You know, what was her relationship with Wyndham Earle like? And I was interested in...
What was your reaction when you saw Caroline?
When I first saw Caroline, I was thinking, you know, immediately I'm thinking, okay, that's because I never pictured that she was that way. But when you're watching it, it makes sense that she would be, like you said, married to Wyndham Earle. How else are you going to be, right?
Yeah,
so it made sense. And then, yeah, I was really, I was very much feeling the relationship between Cooper and Caroline there. I think it really, really played. And you got that sense of the connection between the two. And then, of course, you're watching it with dread, knowing what's coming.
Right.
You know, and you don't want to see that broken up. And I think it adds an extra element, you know, and because you've got always that line, because I've shown Twin Peaks to so many people, and a lot of people will say, well, when we first hear about the Caroline thing, they think I've heard the question a lot where somebody says, well, Cooper's such an upstanding guy. Why would he sleep with his partner's wife? Why would he do that? And, you know, I think that the way you portrayed it makes sense too, to kind of show how that would happen. And I always thought that it would be, because there's a part of Caroline that knows that it's her husband that did this. I mean, we see it in the Black Lodge, you know, I saw the face of the man who killed me. It was my husband, she says. So right. I think that there was always a part of her that knew that and kind of blocked out, almost the same way that Laura Palmer.
Cooper doesn't. Even in season 2, he tells Harry, like, Harry, I think he's responsible for the crimes.
Yeah.
She, you know, he still doesn't know.
But I think Caroline did, and I think that pushed her away from Wyndham. And I think that, you know, Cooper has a white knight syndrome. Cooper sees a woman.
You believe that?
I do.
You do.
I do. I think Cooper definitely has that. I know it's.
My theory is that, like, if it had been Andy stuck at One-Eyed Jack's getting heroin, Cooper would have gone in after him.
Oh, I agree. But I think that I agree that. I mean, Cooper would help anybody in trouble. But I do think that he has this thing where he does want to. And I know a lot of this is coming from the final dossier when I say this, but
yeah, because I think that a lot of that's Tammy trying to throw Cooper under the bus so she looks good to Gordon.
Yeah, but I do think, I mean, yes, but at the same point, he does, because if you look at who Cooper is attracted to, he is you know, to Annie, to Caroline.
He's so attracted to Annie, he doesn't even mention her in season 3.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other thing.
And I tried to account for that in my film, by the way.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. And it's that's another thing too, talking about your film, is the ending. Now, I don't know. I mean, how many people that are in here?
They've all seen it. Go ahead.
Okay, so because I don't know if you want me to spoil the ending.
Go ahead. Yeah, please. I don't care.
Okay.
It's been out long enough.
Okay, because that was another interesting thing to me, is that ending, having the continuing on. You know, I mean, having Annie show up there, which was quite an exciting thing to see. And it does beg the question: are you planning on doing more? Because you definitely left that open. Sorry to put you on the spot here.
Well,
but, you know.
I think maybe in a perfect universe, and if I had like a budget, maybe. Yeah. But like, I felt like
you're getting into budget territory there with how you ended that one. That is true.
Well, not just that, but it's like I didn't want to end Twin Peaks. I wanted to kind of do what they did, which is sort of like just kick the can down the road just a little bit. And
right.
I think while some people do look at it as sort of a cliffhanger, I never thought of it as a cliffhanger. I thought of it as sort of like, well, emotionally it feels over. Like she's saying, like, you know, I was with Dale and Laura. Now she's with Dale and Laura. You know, they're sort of like a team, a unified thing. And then, you know, I was just kind of making a statement that when you're facing down the odds or facing down evil, take a step towards it. Don't cower and run.
Right. Hence the step at the end. Right.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, having Annie, like I think I said to you on the phone, I said, imagine what would have happened if at the very end of the show, what you did would have happened if Heather Graham would have shown up as Annie at the end.
I would have dropped from excitement and just like, it just would have been amazing.
Because I remember the whole time wondering too if that cast list was complete and if there were going to be any big surprises. You know, I think a lot of people wanted to, are we going to get Michael Onkeen or Chris Isaac or, you know, some kind of or Josie. I remember the sound in the Great Northern.
Yes.
Especially that shot in part 7 where it goes into the wood. I'm thinking, okay, this has to be Josie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it probably was in the original script. And they said, no, let's turn the basement of the Great Northern into the basement of the hospital of the International Pilot.
Yep.
It's very bizarre.
Which makes me wonder, so do you think the idea then is that Cooper's door, once they switched to key cards, was somehow moved to the basement?
I've never thought about that.
Because Cooper's key, his old key, fits in there.
Right. But see, when Jade got a hold of the key and she said she was going to mail it back, right? I thought, oh, this is where we're going to learn about the time jumps. Because I was under the impression that since everybody had Blackberries and the houses were all in foreclosure, I thought we were in 2008. I thought that we were further back in time than the rest of the series, because when Cooper's in that box and he goes doom 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 doom, right? I thought he was moving back further before, and it was 2 times simultaneously happening.
See, that's interesting, because that could account. One thing that I can't account for is, especially when we get into the books, because by all means, season 3 should take place in 2014. There are a bunch of references to being 25 years earlier throughout season 3, specifically 25 years, which would place it in 2014. But we have the secret history placing it in 2016, and certain things like that.
Yeah, so in the Cooper diary, him and Wyndham Earle are hanging out in the 70s. So
I'm going to go back to which I agree with what you said at the beginning of this, which is the show is going to, if there's a contradiction, the show is what we go by. So even though they don't say 2014, if they don't say 2014, and we do see dates that say 2015 on it, like Bill Hastings' driver's license, but I'm still going to go by, also, Emery Battis's book says 1990 in season 1, and we know it's 89. So that's, art department stuff that doesn't quite count. So what's actually stated in the show 25 years later puts it in 2014.
Well, the Double R Diner grows every episode, so.
That is true. But it shrinks again in season 3. And,
Now, one thing I'm really excited to see one day, I haven't seen it. You've taunted me with it, though.
What have I taunted you with?
The floor plans of how the sets were.
Oh, yes.
Because you've been to the sound stages, you figured out where each set was. Yeah,
I went onto the sound stage when it was empty. They're usually filming something there. They do a lot of TV shows there, but I went there when it was empty. And it was when I was starting on the last film that I did. So I called them, because I was actually looking for a sound stage, but that one was kind of out of the budget range, and we didn't need one that big. But I called them up and I went there to tour that sound stage because it was open for rent.
Right.
And when I went in there, I went in with the blueprints that I have, and kind of, because there's 2 sound stages. This is the one for season 1, 2, and Fire Walk with Me. They used a different studio for season 3. So I went there and I'm walking around the sound stage with the maps, because they just let me wander on my own. And by the way, the bathroom of the sound stage was the one from season 2 where Philip Gerard is in the stall, and that's also was painted differently. It was also the bathroom that was used in episode 4 with Audrey and Donna.
Wait, so the one that's in the school is the bathroom of the
same bathroom?
That's amazing.
Same bathroom. It's the bathroom on the soundstage. It's still there. At least it was when I was there 8 years ago, or whenever that was.
Right.
But they just painted it. You'll notice it's the same set. It's not a set. It's the actual bathroom there, and it smelled horrible because I don't think anybody had been there for a long time. But I still went in there, and then that's the small stage. It's a big stage, and then a small stage, and then a bunch of offices, and then the hallway in the soundstage area was where they filmed Hank Jennings' parole hearing, where he meets Norma in the hallway.
Right.
And then one of the offices off there was where they do the parole hearing for Hank. And you'll notice in that scene, you'll see that the curtains covering the windows. That's because if you remove those curtains, you'd see all the sets back there.
Beautiful.
And then, so I went in there and I kind of looked at the map and I said, okay, now I'm standing in the Great Northern. I go over here. I'm in the Double R Diner. Okay.
I like how outside the sheriff's station, like there are different trees out there.
Yeah. Between season 1 and 2 specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, why on earth was the diner growing between season 1 and season 2? Was it just to allow for camera equipment and stuff, or
probably?
Okay, because season 1, it's like it's big, but you can still it looks more or less like the pilot, I guess, right? By the time you get to season 2, the episode with Gordon writing the epic poem about cherry pie to Shelley, that
Yep.
place is bigger than a Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah, and the bathroom is on the other side when Truman goes to use it. Yeah, it's. I think it's mainly for camera movement and just to for all of that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So like one thing that we talked about like with Fire Walk with Me is that why were some things on different sets and we basically came up with the conclusion that the last arc, the 6-episode arc, the Annie Wyndham Earl arc, if a set was standing for those 6 episodes and they needed it for Fire Walk with Me, it got utilized. Anything else was either rebuilt or found again. So like for instance, that's why Harold Smith's apartment is completely different because that set had already been struck down.
Yeah, it had actually been converted.
So the question is, why did they shoot the Double R Diner for real in Snoqualmie and not use the set in the show?
Probably to go back to the pilot, because David Lynch particularly loves the pilot.
Right, of course.
He talked many times about how that's kind of, for him, the essence of Twin Peaks is there. So I think that he was using I think that he went to the Double R, to the real Double R, because it went kind of back to the pilot.
Right.
And something like Harold Smith wasn't in the pilot, so I think and that one, that set according to the blueprint, was at the end of the small stage. So that set would have been the bathroom I was talking about. If you walked out of that bathroom,
wait, would have been right. Are you telling me that his flower area was the bathroom?
Probably backing up against the bathroom, yeah.
Okay.
Or it might have been on the other side. I think it was on the other side. The bookshelf would have been backing up against. If you walked behind that set, you would have gone into the bathroom, which was used as the bathroom for the sheriff's station and the bathroom for the Miss Twin Peaks. I'm not Miss Twin Peaks, the Twin Peaks High girls' bathroom.
Okay.
And then, but in season 3, it was a different one used. It's a different bathroom that's, looks close enough.
So where was the Black Lodge? Was that built separately, or was that built over another set?
That was built near the back, near the Blue Pine Lodge.
Okay.
Which was near the back of the large stage. There were 2 stages, a large stage and a small stage. The Blue Pine Lodge was near the back.
Okay.
And then
did they have that thing permanently standing there from from the pilot, or did they no, that's what I thought. They
pilot was a different sound stage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All the stuff, the European ending stuff that wasn't filmed in Washington was a separate sound stage in LA. It wasn't that sound stage.
Right. Okay. But Dr. Jacoby's office looked like the same.
Yes, but that might have just been a piece of it rebuilt, because that set, Dr. Jacoby's office became Harold Smith's apartment.
Okay.
And then that became Truman's cabin, and that became Wyndham Earl's cabin. So they kind of, they hollowed it out and changed it around, but those sets were no longer standing by the end.
They just had to make sure they never went back to that location then once they were changed.
Yeah. Well, I guess, they probably still would have had the stuff to put it back together.
Right.
As to why Harold Smith's apartment was put back together differently, that I don't know.
Well, I think they shot that in some like Hollywood, some high school gymnasium or something.
Oh no, that was a set. It's definitely a set.
Right, it's a set.
In Fire Walk with Me, yeah.
Oh, it's definitely a set. There's no atmosphere whatsoever in that.
It's room. Yeah, and we noticed the doors on a different side, and it's a different layout. I don't know why they didn't take the original set elements. I'm not sure what happened with that one.
Maybe because Lynch had nothing to do with the Harold Smith apartment scenes.
Up until the death scene.
Right, but the house was destroyed.
Yeah. The set, yeah, exactly. It was all torn apart and everything.
So my theory, of course, is that when Donna went in and met the Tremans, that she was specifically chosen to go into Harold Smith's house and find out what did he know, what did he see, what did he have. So when she goes outside in front of the Tremans' house, says to James, he has Laura's secret diary. The next episode, he's dead.
Yeah.
I don't think he killed himself. I think the Tremans came in there like the little old people in Mulholland Drive and just scared, made him do it.
Oh, I can picture that one. Them coming under the door. Yeah, that's interesting. They crawled under the door, and yeah.
I don't know, something like that, you know.
What about the theory? You might find this one interesting, and I remember hearing this a lot back in the day, in the 90s. The knife with the W.E. on it that Harold Smith has near Laura Palmer's diary. He's got a knife with the initials W.E. on it.
Okay.
So a lot of people are thinking Wyndham Earle, W.E.
Oh, wow. Well, you know, you're talking to somebody who through the whole first half of the second season just assumed that Wyndham Earle was the one that plugged Cooper at the door.
Yeah. It seemed like that was the case.
But then, you know, Joan Chen had to go off to make Heaven and Earth, so they had to get her off the show.
Right.
I mean, doesn't it feel like to you that like they kind of just wrote Josie into that part to get her off the show? Because it totally feels like Wyndham Earle would have been the one that plugged Cooper.
Yeah.
Because when they say
when Wyndham Earle plugged Cooper, he would have plugged him in a way knowing he was going to live too.
Right.
Because Wyndham Earle did not want to kill Cooper. Right. He just wanted to torment him. So
and the fact that the next episode, Albert's talking to him at the breakfast about Wyndham Earle's back. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like,
I think that originally it was either Wyndham Earle or maybe it was going to be Jonathan Kumagai, because we have that shot at the beginning of the next episode that you're talking about where he's talking about Wyndham Earle and then the camera moves over and we see Jonathan staring at Cooper.
And I love how in season 1, before Audrey goes off to One-Eyed Jack's, there's that shot of just another Asian man going into the motel, which I guess is supposed to, like, I guess people are supposed to think that's Jonathan, but it's not Jonathan. So it's just to make us
sorry.
It's just to make us paranoid of all Asian men, apparently, in the Great North.
At that point, I think so. But it ended up being, because you reckon that actor is Derek Shimatsu, who played that role, who ends up being Tajimura's assistant.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting when you consider that, because that scene comes right after Catherine, you know, Herbert Neff, the insurance man, comes to Catherine and tells, you know, she finds out that Ben's betraying her. She sees the account ledger's not there. Then the next scene, Audrey's walking down the hall and we see Tajimura's future assistant walk by, which suggests that Catherine was already setting something in motion if we're going to play this one out.
Right. Catherine's a smart one.
Yeah, just an interesting aside. I mean, that's the way that I've always thought about that. But yes, at the time, you know, before we see Tajimura, it's definitely like, okay, we've got these two mysterious Asian men. Are we supposed to be paranoid of everybody that, you know?
It's just,
and then we get a third with Tajimura, you know, so.
I gotta tell you, they tricked me. I didn't think that was Catherine when I was watching it.
You know, I remember I did, and it was because of the way Ben Horn was looking at her. I thought, wait a minute, is that Catherine? But I kind of did. I remember thinking at the time.
Okay.
And then kind of thinking no in the next episode, but the first one thinking yes, and the next one thinking no, it's not her. And then when it was revealed, it was like, okay, I guess my first guess was right.
Right.
But when I show it to people, I'd say 90% of people don't guess it's Catherine. I've had like 10% guess it.
Right.
Those people are just like experts at faces, and they say, wait a minute, that's not really.
I love the scene when Ben Horn is talking to Tajimura and Cooper and the sheriff come in episode 14, and he's just like, just go, get out of here. I'm going to go out for a sandwich.
That's the best. That's the best thing to say. If anybody's ever arrested, that should be their response. You know, anybody listening, if you ever get arrested, just say to the police, "No, go on, get out. I'm going to go out for a sandwich."
Right. I apologize, guys. There's, you know, we've been having trolls for many, many years on this channel. And of course, they all come out in droves when I'm live doing a cool interview and stuff like that. So just don't worry about it. I'm blocking every time I see a comment. It's all good. You know, if you're cool, you're staying in.
Fortunately, I haven't seen any of that because, like I said, I can't see.
They're not saying anything about. They're not saying anything about you. They're all kind of coming after.
Well, any which way, you know.
There's a cool duder. I don't know if it's the real cool duder or not, but if you are, hello, good to see you. Thank you for watching.
Let's keep the Twin Peaks world friendly, everybody. I mean, there's been things, but you know what I mean.
This isn't. These aren't Twin Peaks fans. These are just. These are just YouTube trolls that come in and.
Okay.
You know, they've come after me for many, many years. They're the type of people when I was having trouble getting Queen of Hearts off the ground, they were rooting for me the demise of the project,
Wow.
So, so anyway,
don't root against people. Come on,
well, people are fools. Anyway,
if somebody doesn't want to watch something, they don't have to watch something, but don't root against people. You know what I mean?
Thing. It's like, I don't even know
we're
why
all
you're
human.
on this.
We're all trying here.
I don't even know why they even watch this channel if they don't like what I talk about. So anyway, we do have Josh and I have talked about having him on more here, but we've also been talking about doing something super cool. I'm not quite sure which channel. I don't know if it's going to be on this channel or if it's going to be on the new channel. If you haven't subbed yet to Pop Culture Again, please do.
It could be very fun.
This is going to be awesome, guys. So one of the things that Josh did when he ran the fest, and also when I guess when you were just helping out with the fest.
Yeah, since 96 on to
okay.
96.
So you were doing these Twin Peaks trivia contests that are very much legendary. And anyone who went to the festivals. These are things that I would be terrible at, but anyway.
I think you'd be quite good, actually, Cameron. I think you got to give her some more credit. I think you'd be very good.
It depends, but I didn't even know about the Wii knife, so.
Well, that wouldn't be a question because that's such a small, you know what I mean?
Right. So one of the things we're going to do, and we haven't figured out the times yet, and we don't have all the details squared away, but this is in the workings, guys, is there's nothing going on in the Twin Peaks fan community right now. Yes, John Thorne has a book out, and, Queen of Hearts is doing well, and, there's a lot of little things here and there. But in terms of like Wisteria, Unrecorded Night, Twin Peaks, like official big things.
Yeah, both festivals. There's no more festival at all. Both festivals were shut down, so it's kind of there's no real.
Right.
I mean, I guess there's conventions, but as far as like the fan
but what I mean. There's just it's all fan driven. So if it's going to be fan driven, Josh and I are planning on bringing back the Twin Peaks trivia contest. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into like an event. We're going to do, I think we're talking about, again, this hasn't been finalized yet, but we're talking about like doing like, 7 or 8 shows of where we're going to start off with a ton of contestants. And we're going to, by the end of each show, eliminate one or two people till we get to the end after like 6, 7 episodes over. And it's literally going to be sort of like the Hunger Games for Twin Peaks fandom. So if you are interested in being a contestant, do reach out and let us know. And you can email me anytime here. And I think this is going to be very, very, very exciting.
And of course, it'll all remain friendly, and that's in the spirit of everything. It's all going to remain friendly and cooperative. No, rough competition. It's going to be fun. It's going to be friendly and exciting. That's the idea of this.
Well, that's what Josh says.
That's what I say. Maybe Cameron is different.
I personally think that some people should be, ostracized from the fan community.
I never did that at the festival. I always said at the beginning, everybody's a winner here. Even if you don't win, you still won. But I'll be the good cop. You'll be the bad cop, right?
No, I just think that I think sometimes David Lynch Twin Peaks fans are especially if you're a Blue Velvet fan, right? Some of us are Frank, some of us are Dorothy, some of us are sadistic, some of us are masochistic. I think every once in a while, it's good to smack us around once in a while.
Which lodge are you from? We're gonna find out.
Exactly. As Frank says, he wouldn't last one round. I don't know if I'd even last that long, but
I think you definitely would.
And we're gonna listen. We can't tell you everything, but we're planning on not only coming up with contestants. So again, if you're interested, let us know. We're also gonna bring in. At least the plan is we're going to start bringing in some celebrity hosts. We can't get into any names yet. Hosts that will come in and either help us host it, or they're going to come in and start asking you questions. And let me tell you something. If you have one of these like hardcore Twin Peaks actors, OG actors come in, I don't know, let's just say for fun. Okay. We're not talking to this person yet. Let's say Russ Tamlin comes in and says, all right, Jamie, Which book did I have on my, my shelf when I removed the coconut?
Otherwise, you get the full Dr. Amp treatment if you're wrong.
Exactly. And let's say you missed that question, Jamie. Russ Hamlin, we'll have Russ Hamlin like rough you up a little bit verbally. And so while it's all in good fun, I do think it'd be good if some Twin Peaks fans got chastised a little bit.
For not if we were going to do that, but if Miguel Ferrer was still alive and he would come on as Albert,
right?
That would be the way to do that one, wouldn't it? I mean, who would not want to be told off by Albert, right? I would want to be told off by Albert.
Oh my God, it'd be absolutely hilarious. Anyway, so you got to commit to the amount of episodes, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna make it through to all the episodes. I don't know. So anyway, we're compiling the questions. We're compiling who we think would be good for this. And it's very exciting. I get very happy when I think about this thing, Josh.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That was a fun thing to do all those years. It'd be good to revive it,
But revive it for everybody.
Yeah, revive it in a different way, exactly. Other than just being in a room and having the people there, that want to participate.
And obviously, if this goes over well, we'll do it again. But we got to make sure it goes over well first.
Yes.
But I think it would be a tremendous amount of fun.
Yeah, with the right planning, I think it could definitely go over well.
So anyway, Frank says that would be fun. Tony says hello, dropping some love for you guys. Non-existent says this is making me nervous.
Don't be nervous. I promise. It's
okay. So give us. Let's throw them out a question. A test question.
Okay. Now, when I would do the trivia game at the festival, here's how I would do it. Now, it might be different for this, but I had a level 1, which were the easiest questions, the first round. Then I went to level 2, which were next, and level 3, which were, I guess, infamously hard.
Okay.
And then we'd have the final round, which we narrowed down to 3, where they could get even harder than that. So, what level would you like me to throw at a question as a sample?
Okay. Well, let's throw it out. Let's just start with 1 and work our way up.
No, level 1s are always the hardest ones for me to write. So I'm gonna have to come up with something off the top of my mind now. These are
yeah.
Okay, I got one. Here would be a level 1. Okay. Okay. And there's actually a second answer that was probably acceptable for this, even though it's questionable. But there's one answer that's the obvious right one. What sport did Bobby Briggs play for Twin Peaks High?
Well, that would be football.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's my question for you.
I know where you're going to go.
Why on earth are they practicing football in March?
I didn't.
Now I know the original script had it in the fall.
Yes.
Right, but for whatever reason they didn't change it.
Yeah, I think. I just think that David didn't really care.
No, he
on
didn't.
That one. He liked the idea of the football. He liked the idea of the because it also carries over from Blue Velvet, where we had a character named Mike that was a football player, and I think he liked the idea of having Bobby.
Nobody is practicing football in March.
No, but it's surreal. It's David Lynch. That's the. I thought you were going to ask about baseball. The scene in episode 20 when Shelley says football season's over, Bobby, which is kind of referencing that, and then Bobby says baseball, our national pastime, which is why I would have accepted baseball as an answer, because Bobby is probably lying to Shelley, but he still says that, so I'd have to give credit for that answer too. But that's a level 1. Now, as to your question about why they're playing football in February and March, that's a whole other.
That's right. It's February 24th. Sorry,
but they're probably continuing it. They're probably continuing into March.
Yeah.
But then again, Shelley says in that episode, which would be March 18th on the timeline, that football season is over. So it's over by March 18th.
Right. All right, let's do a level 2.
Okay, you'll know this one for sure, Cameron.
I hope so.
This would be level 2. What city was Caroline killed in?
Pittsburgh.
Yep, that's a level 2.
Okay. And how many levels are there? 3?
I had 3, but then in the final round, we'd have different categories and they'd go up to all different kind of levels, including really hard ones. Like there was a category called super difficult, where anything was on, where I'd have questions like, Mr. C's coordinates. But that's when you only get to that. You don't lose if you miss that question. You just get a bunch of extra points if you get it right. That's how.
Do you have like, do you have questions like, like, why was it a different Pierre Trim in a Fire Walk with Me?
No, because all my questions are, it has to be knowledge that you can get in the show is my rule.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So if it's something, behind the scenes, it's something that somebody would have to be able to get watching the show. So like,
is that going to be one of our rules for this thing too? It's like,
because it's only fair.
Okay.
Because if we say that, then people have to go reading things outside of the show. That's not really fair. I think it has to be something somebody can get from the show.
So the books are off limits.
Yeah, I didn't include the books. I never did.
But now there are more books.
Yeah, I never once. Actually, 1 year, the first year Jennifer Lynch came, I think I included the Secret Diary for 1 year. But people had such a hard time with the book questions that I kind of just took it off the shelf from that point on.
Right.
No pun intended, took it off the shelf. But yes, I stopped doing the book questions and just kind of kept it to, basically what I had it, and I'll probably continue the same way, was, the series, Fire Walk with Me, The Missing Pieces, and season 3.
Here's a question. What show played before Twin Peaks on Saturday nights at 9 o'clock?
See, that wouldn't be one because that's not one you can get watching.
No, I know. I'm just asking you.
Wasn't it China Beach?
China Beach and Cop Rock was one of them.
And Cop Rock was later, but China Beach was,
right.
Because I remember that ending and then going right into Twin Peaks. I do remember that. And I remember Cop Rock too. I remember when they had the Alan Thicke Cop Rock and Twin Peaks thing, which I have recorded in my old VHS somewhere.
Right. All right, give me a tough one that I'll never get.
Okay. It depends on how tough you want me to. See, I still have like archives of this for like 20 years worth on my computer that I can, including a bunch I didn't use. Okay.
Yeah, those are the ones we're gonna need for our game show.
Okay, so level 3. Okay. What's a good one to come up to throw out here? Okay. What time was the atomic bomb set off in part 8?
Oh Lord. It was one of those it was one of those 430s, huh? Or the 530.
You're close with the 530. You're getting closer, not quite. That's a really tough one. I'm getting really tough there.
No. Actually, because it flashes it on the screen. I should know it.
What about the date? That would be another level 3.
Oh God, it was like 46, wasn't it? Was it?
Not 46. No. You're close.
I don't know.
July 16th, 1945.
Okay, 45. Yeah.
And
again, it flashes on the screen. I should know, but again, it's 11:30 at night here. So.
That is true.
No, actually, it's 12:20 in the morning.
Already?
Yeah.
We've been on here for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that.
It's like one of our phone calls.
Wow.
We're gonna wrap it up in a minute. Don't worry. But anyway, so guys, we're planning on doing. We don't have a dates yet, but we're planning on putting together this like game show. If you guys want to be a part of it, again, reach out. We're gonna find like the 7 coolest people we can find for this thing, and put you guys through the ringer. And this is gonna be wild. Your Josh might be the nice guy here, but your Twin Peaks fandom is on the line.
Now, I'm not going to ask Mr. C's coordinates because I mentioned that a bunch of times.
Right. No, it's not happening.
Because now everybody's going to go and memorize that, but I'm not going to ask that. So I will save everybody the trouble.
There it is.
It is. Yeah. I will save everybody the trouble.
But you got to commit to all of them, because you may not, if you don't last, then great. But
okay, here's one. Here's a good one.
You have to go.
I have to figure out what level this would be. I just thought of this one here.
Well, this one won't be on the show.
No, it won't be. But I just thought this isn't. I don't think I've asked this one. I don't know why it just came to me. Now I just lost it again. Might just be it's late.
See what happens.
Yeah, I know that's early. It's really early.
I was saying before though is if you make it to the next round, then you come onto the next show. And the cool thing is we've actually talked about if you if you're in the top 3, there are prizes, and there's going to be some cool prizes. Josh and I've already talked about things that if you're a Twin Peaks fan, you're going to be very happy with. So,
yeah, I think definitely.
Right.
No doubt about that. No, I just got. Okay, this is a level 2. This is an interesting level 2. Okay, what is the name? And we only know this from the missing pieces because the script had it as a different name. But what's the name of the official name of the Pink Room, the club? We see it on the door in the missing pieces.
Oh God, it was something America, wasn't it? Or America?
No, you have the other sign you're thinking of. That's the Canada sign. This is on the door itself. And then the trucker also mentions it to Laura Palmer in the missing pieces when she gets the friend of Leo's when she gets into the truck.
Right.
He says friend of Leo's, and then he says the name of the club then too.
Yeah.
In the script, it was called Partyland, but then it changed when it went into the missing pieces, and when it got filmed.
Yeah, I don't remember. This is how good I'm gonna be.
It's the power and the glory.
That's it.
And the thing is that trucker also appears in season 3. That trucker is played by Brian T. Finney, who in season 3 ends up being the security guard at the Silver Mustang Casino. That says in the back, Jack.
Oh wow.
Same actor. Different character.
See, the thing that I remember from the missing pieces is when Laura's in the car with the guys and they're spinning around, right? And they're doing the donuts on the ground, and then it says Cooper Tires while they're doing donuts.
Yep, exactly.
I love it. I'm like, Lynch, why did you cut that out of the film? Because like that right there connects Laura and Cooper together.
Oh, it's perfect. It's great. Yeah.
So anyway, well, this has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Hope everybody's enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people will enjoy this conversation. And again, we're going to be doing these more often, but then, and we'll get into some news, like why is Kyle MacLachlan hanging around the Criterion offices? I personally think there's going to be a Blue Velvet or a Fire Walk with Me 4K set. Some people are theorizing that The Return is going to come out as a 4K box set from Criterion, but I don't think Kyle's just hanging around Criterion for the heck of it.
How about this? A Fire Walk with Me 4K that has the missing pieces of the missing pieces. Because, there's the scenes like with the extra scenes with Carl Rod where Deputy Cliff goes into Teresa's trailer and has the whole talk where Chet Desmond asks him where he was the night Teresa Banks was murdered.
So they shoot that?
I believe so.
Because I heard they didn't shoot the Cooper Josie picnic scene.
They didn't shoot that scene. They definitely didn't shoot Truman and Josie, but they did shoot Deputy Cliff and Carl Rod in the trailer.
Okay.
And that comes from somebody I know that was there when they filmed it. That told me that in the 90s.
I just want the Doc Hayward Red Rose on the road when James speeds off.
I know. Yeah, I would love to see that too.
That's what I want.
And
I love the fact that Ronette's Bridge is like right there in the background when he speeds off.
Yep. right by Sparkwood and 21.
Absolutely.
And then you also know that Leland and Laura drive under Ronette's Bridge when Mike is following them.
Right. Yeah. David Lynch, the continuity is just off the charts. But Josh and I have had talks about this. We said even the mistakes we love. So,
yeah. Yes.
Like when Leland, it was not really a mistake, but like when Leland's leaving the motel and Fire Walk with Me and the little Tyrion boy jumps out. That's not in the script. So when Ray Wise whips his head around to be like, what the hell? That's literally like his reaction, because all of a sudden this kid jumps into the shot
with the mask on.
Exactly. So anyway, be thinking about this game show, folks, and check out Josh, and check out. Is there a place people can see your films? Is there a place that's streaming or?
Yes. I know that. Well, I just did a new distribution deal with the latest one that Dwayne Dunham edited. But there's an issue with the version that's streaming with some missing sound things, that whole issue. But then there's the other one I did with called Dark Real, which came out. You can get that. It came out everywhere in every country pretty much. So you can get that on DVD and Blu-ray. I don't think it's streaming anywhere now. I know it was on Netflix a long while back, but that one's with Edward Furlong and Lance Henriksen and Tony Todd. It's kind of a dark comedy horror film.
Wow, that's a good
Yeah,
cast.
that was a fun one. And so there's and the newest one is with Eric Roberts, John Savage, Dominique Swain, James Duval, some interesting customers in there too. Yeah. So definitely check them out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, check out those are
Those
good
last two were
cast.
shot on 35 millimeter also, which was fun to do. And then there's a short that I did before that called Inner Balance, which a lot of people have been to the festival scene. They played that there a lot, which starred Dana Ashbrook, which is like a 7-minute short. That's really the opening of another feature that I've been trying to get off the ground forever. And hopefully one day I will. But I think you can find that on my my Facebook, my Josh Eisenstadt Film Facebook page. I think that's on there.
And you shot all these with a 35 millimeter.
Yeah, those 3 were all on 35 millimeter.
I shot Queen of Hearts with an iPhone. So you
know. Which looks great. I mean, the iPhone now is now is better than like so many cameras that exist before. You know, I mean, it is.
I know. I'm just playing around.
Yeah. The camera that I shot, the films that I did before that, my first 2 were done on mini DV. Mm-hmm. And when I look at those now, I think, wow, I mean, the mini DV cameras that were at that point this big, and now.
Hey, if Blair Witch and Inland Empire can be shot on the handy cams, okay?
Yeah.
Anything is possible, folks. Anything is possible.
True. And nowadays, the quality of the cameras you can get and the size you can get them, it's amazing. I mean,
we shot the entire film in 4K. I mean, it's just it's stunning. Yeah. So anyway,
and I'm talking about the film I did, I shot on 35, but the transfer I have is a 2K transfer. We did a 2K digital intermediary on it, so we shot on film, but we finished on 2K.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So let me show you guys one more time. This is our new channel. We're going to be posting on there as well. There's nothing on there just yet, but just so you guys know, just find us on Facebook. We're there on Facebook too. But if you find us on YouTube at Pop Culture Again, and obviously you're subscribed here, I'm sure. So make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to us, and we will see you soon. It's been a real pleasure, Josh. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Cameron.
On this Friday night. And all right, guys, we'll see you soon. Take it easy. Take care.
Absolutely. Bye.